The House will come to order. This morning, the morning pledge will be said by Amelia Foote and Leanna Foote from Ryan Elementary School in Lafayette, Colorado, daughters of Senator Mike Foote.
Please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Randall, please call the roll. Awesome. It's good to see you here.
Representatives Arndt, Baisley, Beckman, Benavides, Byrd, Bockenfeld, Buck,
You guys go ahead.
Buckner, Quintale, Caravale, Carver, Catlin, Coleman, Cutter, Duran, Escar, Exum, Froelich, Galindo, Garnett, Geithner, Gonzalez Gutierrez, Gray, Hanson, Herod, Hooten, Humphrey, Jackson, Jackson,
Bye.
excused. Hawkes Lewis, Kennedy, Kip, Kraft-Tharp, Landgraf, Larson, Lewis, Lewis, excused. Liston, Lontine, McCluskey, McKean, excused. McLaughlin, Melton, Michelson Janae,
Hey, wait.
Mollica, Mollica, excused. Neville, Pelton, Ransom, Rich, Roberts. Representative Mollica is present. Roberts, Sane, Sandridge, Singer, Sirota, Sirota, excused. Snyder, Soper, Sullivan, Tipper, Tipper, excused. Tatone, Valdez A. Valdez, excused. Valdez D. Van Winkle, Weissman, Will, Williams, Wilson. Madam Speaker.
With 58 present, 7 excused, we have a quorum. Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is my daughter's birthday today. Happy birthday, Kate. And all she wants for her birthday is an aye vote on my motion. This is for my darling daughter. Please vote yes. I move that the reading of the Journal of Thursday, April 11th, 2019 be dispensed with and approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye!
All those opposed say no.
Yes!
The motion passes. Announcements and introductions. Representative Coleman? No. Kennedy? No. Anyone?
He said coming in hot.
I just was calling those guys.
My people were up here.
Representative Escar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I want to let you know that the Colorado organizations and individuals responding to HIV/AIDS in Colorado are here today. There's a group of advocates who are going to be coming to talk to you, probably some of your constituents. CORE brings key individuals and human service social justice agencies together to advance the rights of people living with HIV and those at risk for HIV across Colorado. They have a lot of information to share with you and a lot of insight, I think, that would be beneficial for us all to hear. So if you get a card from one of your constituents who are here with CORE today, make sure you take the time to have some conversations with them.
I have to announce it. Representative Buckner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, please make sure you reach out to the advocates today with Cora. And I have a very special guest here today, and his name is Scott Irwin. He advocates for Cora, and he is one of my constituents. So I'm really pleased that he's here today.
Representative Escar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, if you could turn your attention over to this side of the wall over here. I have an amazing class of students from the AP government class of Pueblo West High School who are joining me on the floor today and watching how we function or don't function. But let's give them a welcome. Thank you.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll bet you know why I'm here. Veterans Caucus, Monday, April 15th at 11:30 to 1300 hours in the basement. We are going to talk about the best topic we can talk about when we're thinking about veterans, and that is mental health and suicide. And again, if you look on the back of your flyer, you can see what's going on in your counties. Thank you. Be sure to RSVP to Jerry if you want lunch.
Representative Sane. Oh, excuse me, Representative Hooten.
Good morning, members. I'd like to take a moment to introduce my sister, who is a teacher, and her students, the Outdoor Active Kids, Mary Russell. And this is a wonderful group of preschoolers who spend the majority of their day learning outside, in libraries, in parks, and it's just a really wonderful opportunity for them to explore their natural environment, learn about science, right on the spot. And I have met them, and they are the most fascinating, intelligent, completely engaged preschoolers I have ever known. And I just welcome you all to the Capitol. And if you wouldn't mind, please join me in welcoming them they also. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Welcome to the state capitol. Are there additional announcements or introductions? Representative Sane.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Members, we've got a unique opportunity today to recognize some folks in a small business, in a small community, making an incredible difference. And one of those is a man who is providing leadership by making sure that the youth working for him reaches their full potential. He is somebody that young men in particular can look up to. And in fact, his business has a mission statement of not only treating his guests like family, but in treating his employees like family. And he encourages positive decision making. 5 of his employees have recently just enlisted in the United States military, and they're leaving for boot camp this year. One of those young men is actually leaving on Monday. With that, Mr. Randall, would you please read the first tribute at length?
The House of Representatives convene in the 72nd General Assembly hereby extends sincere commendations to Ben Skoglund, Ben's Brick Oven Pizza. The Colorado General Assembly extends its congratulations to Ben Skoglund and the employees of Ben's Brick Oven Pizza for fulfilling its mission statement of positively impacting the community by promoting positive relationships, role models, and choices, which includes the enlistment of 5 employees to the United States Armed Forces. Whereas America is a beacon of hope and freedom to the world, the employees of Ben's Brick Oven Pizza are an inspiration to its Colorado community. On request of Representative Lori Sane, given this 12th day of April, 2019, State Capitol in Denver.
Representative Sane.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. And again, a unique situation. We have these 5 young men here today, 3 of which are listing in the United States Marine Corps, and 2 of which are listed in the United States Army. Mr. Randall, would you please read the second tribute?
The House of Representatives convene in the 72nd General Assembly hereby extends sincere commendations to Colby Langdon, Brett Johnson, and Andrew Johnson. The Colorado General Assembly hereby recognizes and commends Colby Langdon, Brett Johnson, and Andrew Johnson for their enlistment in the United States Marine Corps. The people of Colorado are grateful for the service of her citizens in the Marine Corps, which is always faithful to answer a nation's call to engage and defeat the enemies of the United States. Therefore, we extend our sincere thanks and appreciation for their commitment to serve and protect the American people. On request of Representative Lori Sane, given this 12th day of April, 2019, State Capitol in Denver.
Representative Sane.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Mr. Randall, would you please read the last tribute?
The House of Representatives convene in the 72nd General Assembly hereby extends sincere commendations to Noah Kreutzer and Benjamin Brooks. The Colorado General Assembly hereby recognizes and commends Noah Kreutzer and Benjamin Brooks for their enlistment in the United States Army. The people of Colorado are grateful for the service of her citizens in the Army, which was formed to defend our freedoms and our nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Therefore, we extend our sincere thanks and appreciation for their commitment to serve and protect the people of Colorado and the American people. On request of Representative Lori Sane, given this 12th day of April, 2019, State Capitol in Denver.
Representative Sane.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Before we greet our guests, I just want to read a couple of statements by these young men. Colby Landon said, "I joined the Marine Corps to serve my country in the best way I could possibly imagine." Brent Johnson said, "I enlisted in the Marine Corps to serve my country and get the education I need. There are lots of benefits, but most of all, experience. I also have a lot of family history in the Marine Corps. My grandpa served in Vietnam and his dad in World War II. Andrew Swanson said, "I enlisted in the Marine Corps to serve my country and build a family with the Marines." Benjamin Brooks, "I joined the Army for my future family and so I can serve the greatest country on the planet." Yes, we could all clap at that one. And Noah Kreutzer, I enlisted first of all to serve my country, and after that, I think it's a great way to start a life. Please congratulate these fine young men standing over here, and if we can take just a few moments, Madam Speaker Pro Tem, to greet our guests.
Thank you, Representative Sane. We will take a very brief recess so her guests can be received.
Thank you. 3 more minutes. People seem to be enjoying themselves.
The House will come back to order. Are there any more announcements or introductions? Representative Singer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As a quick reminder for Public Health Care and Human Services, we're going to be doing 3 bills today, 1288, 1308, and Senate Bill 164. So House Bills 1288, 1388, and Senate Bill 164. So we'll be seeing you upon adjournment when that is. And I have a couple introductions for some of our public school teachers who are here today.
Could we please be quiet in the chamber? Thank you.
So I'd like to introduce a number of our school teachers from Boulder Valley School District, including Carrie Hosty from Centennial, Tina Mew from Centennial Middle School, Judy Stone and Sarah Sloan from Aspen Creek, Lisa O'Brien from Whittier Elementary, Anna Cox from Pioneer Elementary, Patty Delgado from Centaurus High School, and Terry Mulford, formerly from Lafayette Elementary. After 19 years, she still deserves all the credit that we can give her. Please join me in welcoming our Boulder Valley School District teachers here today.
Thanks for joining us. Representative, Madam Speaker Pro Tem Buckner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am so excited because I made this announcement a few minutes ago, but my guests were not on the House floor yet. My guests, would you please stand? And there's a couple in the back. Yes. These are my guests today and the guests of Representative Esgar. They are representing CORA, Colorado Organizations and Individuals Responding to HIV and AIDS in Colorado. We thank you for your work. We thank you for advocating. And I have a constituent from HD 40 here today, and his name is Scott Irwin. So thank you for being here today.
Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And also I want to recognize former Representative Fran Coleman in the House here today with us, also with representing our Representative Coleman's family relationship. So,
Representative Coleman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yeah, I just want to say, everyone, please give a warm round of applause and welcome to my other mom, Fran Coleman. Thank you.
Are there any other announcements or introductions? Majority Leader Garnett. Oh, Mr. Randall, please read the reports of committees of reference.
Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following bills be referred unamended to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1013, 1088, 1228, 1255. The committee also recommends the following bills be amended as follows, and as amended be put to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. House Bills 1110, 1120, 1122, 1132, 1133, 1134, 1171, 1184, 1187, 1188, 1202, 1216, 1233, 1247, 1250, 1262, 1265, 1280. Committee on Education, after consideration of the merits of the committee are as following. House Bill 1249 be postponed indefinitely. House Bill 1276 be amended as follows, and as amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations for recommendation. Senate Bill 2 be referred favorably to the Committee on Finance. Senate Bill 10 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. Senate Bill 189 be amended as follows, and as amended be referred to the Committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. Committee on Energy and Environment, after consideration of the merits of the committee are as following. House Bill 1260 be referred to the Committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1279 be referred to the Committee favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. House Bill 1284 be referred to the Committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. Committee on Rural Affairs and Agriculture, after consideration of the merits of the committee are as following. House Bill 1305 be referred to the Committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 4 be amended as follows, and as amended be referred to the Committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 162 be referred to the Committee on Appropriations. Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs, after consideration of the merits of the committee are as following. House Bill 1316 be amended as follows, and as amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 154 be referred to the Committee on Finance. Senate Bill 200 be referred to the Committee of the whole with favorable recommendation.
Members, I have one announcement. The Senate has voted to go beyond the scope on Senate Bill 90 and form a conference committee. They did not concur in House amendments. The House conferees on Senate Bill 90 Conference Committee are Representatives Gray, Van Winkle, and Hooten. The House does also? But even though the Senate voted to go beyond the scope? Okay. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to proceed out of order for consideration of resolutions.
Seeing no objection, the House will proceed out of order for consideration of resolutions. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Joint Resolution 1012.
House Joint Resolution 1012 by Representatives D. Valdez, also Senator Garcia, concerning the designation of the Colorado State Highway 115 between mile marker 7 and 10.34 through the city of Florence as the Sergeant First Class Ray Adam Archuleta Memorial Highway.
Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move House Joint Resolution 191012
Please proceed.
and to be read at length.
Members, could you please be quiet in the chamber?
Whereas Sergeant First Class Ray Adam Archuleta was born in Florence, Colorado on December 24th, 1936. And whereas Sergeant First Class Archuleta enlisted in the United States Army in 1954 at 18 years old. And whereas Sergeant First Class Archuleta has had a lengthy career of military service and notably participated in a search and destroy mission near Tu Hoi, Vietnam, at the direction of the President of the United States, for which he earned a Bronze Star in 1966. And whereas Sergeant First Class Archuleta began his second tour in Vietnam on March 10th, 1967. And whereas on September 7th, 1967, as Sergeant First Class Archuleta and his platoon were moving a wounded man to a landing zone for extraction from the battlefield, the platoon suddenly came under intense enemy fire. And whereas Sergeant First Class Archuleta, upon seeing his machine gunner wounded and without regard to his own safety, ordered the gunner's evacuation and rushed toward the enemy to provide covering fire. And whereas, when a medic was unable to carry the wounded man under his own strength, Sergeant First Class Archuleta again moved through enemy fire to assist the evacuation to a wooded area nearby. And whereas Sergeant First Class Archuleta became seriously wounded in the gun battle as they approached the wood line, and in one final act of valor, sent the medic and the wounded gunner on while he stayed behind to provide covering fire. And whereas, for his years of military service and for making the ultimate sacrifice, Sergeant First Class Archuleta was awarded the Bronze Star for heroism, 3 Silver Stars, a Purple Heart, an Army Commendation Medal, a National Defense Service Medal, a Vietnam Service Medal, and a Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal. And whereas Sergeant First Class Archuleta gave his life in the service of others, and his sacrifice to his country should be remembered, and whereas it is fitting that we honor the life and valor of such a hero, so devoted to country, who saved lives directly in the line of duty, now therefore be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the 72nd General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the Senate concurring herein, that Colorado State Highway 115 between mile markers 7 and 10.34 through the city of Florence be designated as the Sergeant First Class Ray Adam Archuleta Memorial Highway. that the Colorado Department of Transportation may accept and expend gifts, grants, and donations for the purpose of the initial placement of signs at mile marker 7 and 10.34 of Colorado State Highway 115 for the Sergeant First Class Ray Adam Archuleta Memorial Highway, and that the Colorado Department of Transportation may explore a cooperative agreement with the Board of County Commissioners of Fremont County for the maintenance of the markings for the Sergeant First Class Ray Adam Archuleta Memorial Highway.
Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, you may be seated. First and foremost, the actions taken here today by the Colorado Legislature is a timely tribute to the memory of First Class Ray Adam Archuleta. It commemorates his distinguished military career and showcases his hometown of Florence, Colorado. This memorial highway signs will serve as a reminder to all motorists that duty, honor, and tradition, the self-sacrifice, are preserved in small towns, the large cities, the rural areas of Colorado, even as the tragedy of Sergeant First Class Archuleta's death deeply devastated his family and friends. The placement of this signage brings a sense of pride and gratitude to all who know him and loved him. With us today, Master Sergeant retired James Archuleta, the brother of Sergeant First Class Ray Adam Archuleta is here with us. Lacole Archuleta, daughter of James and niece of Sergeant First Class Ray Archuleta, Roni Peterson, the granddaughter, Roger Peterson, son-in-law to James, Jackie Martinez Wells, and former Representative Fran Coleman. With that, I thank you for all your efforts to make this possible, and always remember, never forget. Thank you to our veterans, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for joining us today. Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Did you move your amendment? Did you move it? All those in favor of House Joint Resolution 1012, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. House Joint Resolution 1012 is passed. Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask for the morning roll call to be added as co-sponsors.
Seeing no objection, the morning roll call will be added as co-sponsors to House Joint Resolution 1012. Are there any other announcements or introductions? Oh, sure. Is Representative Gray nearby? He needs to move it. Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay. Mr. Randall, please read the conference committee report for Senate Bill 207.
First report of the First Conference Committee on Senate Bill 207. This report amends the re-revised bill. To the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, your First Conference Committee appointed on Senate Bill 207 concerning the provision for payment of the expenses of the executive, legislative, and judicial departments for the state of Colorado.
The conference committee will be printed in the journal. Representative Escar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the House adopt the first report of the First Conference Committee on Senate Bill 207.
Question before the House is the First Conference Committee on the first conference of Senate Bill 207. Representative Escar, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, we had a great conference committee. We had lots of conversations. I'm happy to report that Senate Bill 207, as constitutionally required, is balanced. Woo! You're supposed to applause for that. Some of the highlights that we were able to maintain from your amazing ideas that you all gave us on your amendments. $250,000 to the Tony Gramsci Youth Services Program, $55,000 to the Strategic Action Planning Group in the Colorado's over 50, $30,000 for the Rural Economic Development Initiative grants, $100,000 for suicide prevention, $100,000 for community food bank grants. We also added, to make sure that there's some important footnotes within this bill, stating that the General Assembly's intent, the DOC expresses the General Assembly's intent that a portion of the funding for operating expenses be used to purchase soft-soled tennis shoes for inmates with diabetes. We felt that that was an important thing that we can move forward to make sure we're maintaining health for Coloradans. We were able to help with the Regents of the University of Colorado expressing the General Assembly's intent that $1 million increase provided for University of Colorado specialty education programs be used for scholarships for underrepresented minority students. The intent that we study the THC potency and any other related health effects that the department provide report on the General Assembly. If you remember, that was House Amendment 64. Just trying to be funny, not working this morning. And I'm happy to report you will be seeing 2 bills coming very soon that will uphold the commitment we have that this budget will actually help include $100 million for transportation. I will remind you, we paid down the negative factor with the $77 million as well, and over $335 total going to K-12 education, and $120 million still going to higher ed to keep tuition flat for all of our Colorado students. So that's a general idea of what we came up with. I have specifics. It's about 4 pages long. If you'd like to come and check with me, I'm more than happy to talk with you. But with that, we would ask for your support for the first conference committee.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And to be clear, it's $300 million total out of general fund for transportation this year. So we're making some historic investments across the different areas that we all care about, the high priority areas for the state. And let me just finish by a big public thank you to our Vice Chair for the JBC. Please join me in thanking her for all of her hard work this year on 207.
Representative Escar.
Thank you so much for that. I also want to not only thank my JBC members, the team that worked since November to put this together, but the incredible staff that literally worked night and day, crafting not only the long bill itself, going through every single amendment you all submitted as well, and just the amazing work they do to make sure that we are able to do what we are constitutionally obligated to do, and that is pass the balanced budget.
The question before us is to approve the first conference committee of Senate Bill 207. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Bachenfeld, Buck, Buckner, Snyder, Soper, Valdez A.
we have to repass this one?
Is Representative Soper around? Representative Soper will be excused. Mr. Randall, please close the machine. With 49 aye votes, 13 no votes, and 3 excused, the first conference committee report of Senate Bill 207 is adopted. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 207 as amended.
The question is the repassage of Senate Bill 207 as amended. Is there any further discussion? If not, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Representative Soper, that's a $3 fine. Representative Beckman, Mullica, Soper. Please close the machine. With 41 aye votes, 22 no votes, and 22 excused, Senate Bill 207 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Representative Gray. We have one more announcement, an introduction. Actually, he's going to, I'm sorry, it's not. He's Representative Gray.
I have a motion with regard to Senate Bill 90. Senate Bill 90, we passed a couple days ago, and you heard the conference committee announced. I move that the conference committee be authorized to go beyond the scope of the difference between the House and Senate versions. There's some insurance language that we didn't get quite right and wasn't found until after we passed the bill, and there's some language regarding airport usage that we need to clean up. And so I think it's pretty close to being within the scope, but just to be clear, just to be completely clear, I would ask permission to go beyond the scope in the conference committee. Thank you.
Members, could you please be quiet? We're voting. Thank you. So previously, I announced the conference committee for Senate Bill 90, but Representative Gray needed to request to go beyond the scope. The question before the House is the request for conference committee on Senate Bill 90 to go beyond the scope of the differences between the House and the Senate. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The motion to go beyond the scope on Senate Bill 90 passes. Again, the conferees are Representatives Gray, Representative Van Winkle, and Representative Hooton. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this is Ashton. He's 3 years old. He's very excited to be here. Can you wave to everyone? Say hello. Hello. All right, members, we're going to create a special orders calendar. We are going to work up until noon. Then we're going to take a break so public health can meet for 90 minutes. People can get lunch. Then we're going to come back and finish up our work. If you have any questions about that, feel free to come and chat with me. There will be a list of the special orders up here, so please follow along. Yeah, he's really excited about the tractor that's over there. Yeah, we'll head over there soon. But please follow along closely, so if your bills are up, that you're in the chamber so we can move through as efficiently as possible. So I move that the following bills be made special orders on April 12th at 9:42 a.m. House Bill 1285, House Bill 1290, House Bill 1291, House Bill 1301, House Bill 1013, House Bill 1088, House Bill 1110, House Bill 1220, House Bill 1222, House Bill 1120, House Bill 1122, House Bill 1132, House Bill 1133, House Bill 1134, House Bill 1171, House Bill 1184, House Bill 1187, House Bill 1257, House Bill 1258, House Bill 1289, House Bill 1188, House Bill 1202, House Bill 1216, House Bill 1228, House Bill 1233, House Bill 1247, House Bill 1250, House Bill 1255, House Bill 1262, House Bill 1265, House Bill 1280, Senate Bill 64, Senate Bill 194, Senate Bill 77.
Seeing no objection, the bills as listed by the Majority Leader will be made special orders at 9:44 a.m. Representative Sirota. You have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, Representative Sirota will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there's a request for reading a bill at length. Committee amendments will not be read unless requested, as they are printed in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the majority leader, and the coat rule is relaxed. Mr. Randall, please read the title of HB 1285.
House Bill 1285 by Representative Lontine, House Senator Fields, concerning the requirement for the Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing to contract with managed care organization operated by Denver Health and Hospital Authority until the managed care organization ceases to operate a Medicaid managed care program.
Representative Lontine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1285 and the Health and Insurance Committee report.
Thank you. To the Health and Insurance report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in the Health and Insurance Committee, we moved an amendment that said that HCPF and Denver Health, HCPF will offer to enter in a contract with the MCO direct operated by Denver Health, and that we also added an end date of June 30th, 2025. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Health and Insurance report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The Health and Insurance Committee report passes. Representative Lontine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So House Bill 1285 simply gives Denver Health the ability to go directly to HCPF to contract to cover the Medicaid managed care population that they have and not be required to go through Colorado Access. There was some duplicative work going on that both organizations were doing, and this way that is eliminated and saves money, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1285? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1285. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill is passed. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1290.
House Bill 1290 by Representative Arndt, House Senator Priola, concerning the substitution for foreign work experience for the required contract hours by an applicant for examination pursuant to the Barber and Cosmetologist Act.
Representative Arndt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1290. There is no committee report.
Thank you. To the bill.
Right. So the bill is pretty much what the title says it is. This bill says that we can accept foreign work experience for the following licenses: barber, cosmetologist, esthetician, a nail technician, or hairstyling, with the ratio of 3 months of work experience for every 100 contact hours. It was unanimous out of committee, and I urge a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1290? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1290. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill is passed. Mr. Randall, please read House Bill 1291.
House Bill 1291 by Representative Arndt, House Senators Williams and Tate, concerning the supervision of insurers in connection with establishing certain disclosure requirements for insurers.
Representative Arndt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1291 and the committee report.
Thank you, Representative Arndt. To the committee report.
Thank you very much. This is a little bit of a complicated bill in terms of it deals with governance and accreditation for our National Association of Insurance Commissioners, and so we needed a technical amendment to make sure that our language was going to actually make sure that the bill qualified us to stay accredited, and I urge a yes vote on the committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the Business Affairs and Labor report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee report is adopted. Representative Arndt, to the bill.
Thank you very much. So House Bill 1291 establishes the requirements of insurers to provide annual disclosures regarding their corporate governance structure to the Commissioner of Insurance. based on the model laws put forth by the same association so that Colorado can remain an accredited body. With that association, I urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1291? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1291. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1301.
House Bill 1301 by Representatives Michelson, Janae, and Buckner, House Senators Williams, concerning health insurance coverage for breast imaging.
Representative Michelson, Janae.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1301.
Would you like to move the committee report?
Is there a committee report?
Health and Insurance?
And the Health Insurance Committee report.
Representative Michelson, Janae, to the committee report.
Okay, thank you. In Health Insurance Committee, we were able to make sure that our bill met the needs of insurers to the extent where we could and make it palatable to design this program.
Is there any further discussion on the Health and Insurance report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Health and Insurance Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee report is adopted. Representative Buckner to the bill.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. We are the two proud co-prime sponsors of this bill. We want to eliminate the out-of-pocket costs for initial diagnostic imaging because that will improve access and allow more timely diagnosis and treatment of breast cancer. We know the sooner a disease is caught in the disease state cycle, the better it is for the patient, and also it costs less money for the patient as far as healthcare costs and as far as insurance costs. Required follow-up diagnostic services due to an abnormal mammogram are pivotal in the prevention process. An estimated 10% of screening mammograms require a follow-up diagnostic service. From an early detection perspective, a screening mammogram would not be considered successful if the follow-up diagnostic imaging were not performed to identify the abnormality or possible cancer. We need a systematic approach to breast cancer screening and follow-up diagnostics that lead to significant increases in early detection of breast cancers in the past 20 years. The issue patients may be required to pay higher copays, coinsurance, and other cost-sharing mechanisms when receiving diagnostic mammograms, breast ultrasounds, or breast MRIs is what we are trying to avoid. We are asking for a yes vote on this very important bill.
Thank you, Representative Buckner. Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1301? Representative Baisley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm rising in support of this bill. I think this is one of several items that we ought to look at as standard fare for all insurances, health insurance policies. There are those things that arise very commonly that now with our technology in the 21st century we ought to be able to detect early and to prevent from leading to the more disastrous outcomes that we're used to. I'd like to see this as a start, so I'm definitely in support of this bill, but I'd like to encourage insurance companies to look at prostate cancer and other screening areas that ought to be standard, that would be cost effective for them to cover in the first place, just as part of the standard insurance. And I appreciate my colleagues for sponsoring and bringing this bill before this body. I urge an aye vote. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1301? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1301. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The bill is adopted. Mr. Randall, please read the title to House Bill 1013.
House Bill 1013 by Representative Exum, also Senator Pedersen, concerning the extension of the income tax credit for child care expenses paid by a resident individual with a federal adjusted gross income of $25,000 or less.
Representative Exum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1013 and the Finance Committee report.
Thank you. To the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Finance Committee report just added a sunset date on the bill, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Finance Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The Finance Committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Exum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, House Bill 13 simply is extenuation of our low-income child care tax credit that expires in 2020 for low-income families who earn too little to qualify for the federal child care and dependent child care credit or the Colorado child care tax credit under traditional formula are the ones who benefit from this credit. Since its creation, approximately about 6,000 working parents per year have been able to claim a child care tax credit who otherwise would not have been able to do so. Approximately $3.5 million per year have been paid with average of about a little less than $400 per taxpayer. And the 6,000 working families, they are not eligible. These are people that are not eligible for CCAP. To qualify for this child care tax credit, the parent must be working, the parent must be paying child care, the parent must earn under $25,000, and parents must not qualify for any Colorado child care tax credit under the traditional formula. Credit is equal to 1/4 of the child care expenses paid by a parent up to a cap of $500 per year for one child, $1,000 a year for 2 or more children. And also, I'd also like to mention that the refundable child care tax credits put money back into the pockets of working families, thereby generating economic activity in the state and supplying Colorado economies and local governments. And ask for your support on the bill. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Sandridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank Representative Exum for bringing this bill forward. The purpose of the bill is definitely genuine. I understand that many families do actually need help. The reason I oppose the bill is, first thing, we need more guidelines. I think if we could have certain programs that actually assist families in improving their lives, be a little bit better than just giving money by means of a tax credit. Also, this is just another example of the bill going against the taxpayer bill of rights and reducing the tax refunds to our citizens. Again, would just like a little bit more guardrails on this situation. Maybe, I think we're looking at bills that maybe could help these family situations instead of actually just giving them money via a tax credit. Another thing too is this bill doesn't have any type of demands associated with consistent employment. You can be employed for just a brief time through the year, make the certain money level, and then not work the rest of the year and obtain the tax credits. So with that, I urge a no vote. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1013? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1013. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The bill passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1088.
House Bill 1088 by Representative Sparkenveld, SD, also Senator Donovan, concerning modifications to the existing income tax credit for healthcare preceptors working in healthcare professional shortage areas, in connection therewith clarifying the definition of preceptorship and extending the existing sunset date for the tax credit.
Representative Buck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And folks, this has been a heavy lift for probably 4 years, because I'll never forget when Representative Lois Court got this, helped this bill get it through finance. And so I'm so
Representative
happy
Buck,
to
would
move.
you like to move the bill?
I'm
and the
happy to
reports?
move 1088 for Finance Committee and, or Finance Committee and Appropriations Committee.
I think it's Rural Affairs and Ag.
And Rural Affairs.
Representative Buck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to say that this passed unanimously out of the Rural Affairs Committee. As it went to Finance Committee, it did get a small amendment to put a sunset on it. And as of this morning, it passed appropriations in flying colors unanimously. And yes, please, pass this bill. Please.
Representative Buck, we need to move the finance report first.
I did. I moved the finance report.
Are you speaking?
And the,
You're
yeah.
speaking to the finance report. Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the Finance and Rural Affairs Agricultural Report.
Is there any further discussion on the finance report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. The report is adopted. Representative Valdez to the Rural Affairs and Ag report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the Rural Affairs and Agricultural Report, Committee report.
Representative Valdez, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Rural Affairs and Ag report. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. The report is adopted. Representative Valdez to the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The rural tax credit provides incentives for healthcare professionals in rural Colorado who provide uncompensated personalized instruction, training, and supervision to medical students interested in working in rural Colorado, and ask for your support in an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Buck.
As you know, there's a lot of doctors out there in the rural and the frontier areas that do help educate students going through the rural track to help facilitate more doctors in those areas. And so this is allowing them to get some benefit of taking time away to help educate these doctors. So I ask for a yes vote on this.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill? Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to commend the bill sponsors. We had a couple hearings on this bill in finance, and one of the things they did is did a lot of work of bringing folks who actually were working in this program and have benefited from it in to talk to us. We got a really good idea of where this money is going and the benefits that it had, and the bill sponsors and supporters of the bill put a lot of work into it. So I just wanted to say thank you for that once here on the floor, and please support the bill.
Thank you, Representative Gray.
Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to thank my distinguished colleague, Representative Buck, and all the stakeholders who helped work on House Bill 1088, and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1088? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1088. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1110.
House Bill 1110 by Representative Cutter concerning implementing media literacy in elementary and secondary education.
Representative Cutter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 19-1110.
And both committee reports?
And I move the Appropriation and Ed Committee reports.
Thank you. To the appropriations report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In appropriations, we worked on the fiscal note, and Amendment L003 drove down the fiscal note to under 20,000. In L012, we amended the composition of the committee, the structure of how the committee would meet, so that it was less burdensome and costly.
Is there any further discussion on the appropriations report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the appropriations report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee report passes. Representative Cutter to the education report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the education report, we just we amended the stakeholder group to meet the needs, or the committee to meet the needs of the stakeholders. And also, yeah, that's it basically. We just worked with stakeholders to revise the committee.
Is there any further discussion on the education report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Education Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The Education Committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Cutter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill instructs the Department of Education to hire a consultant to gather best practices and resources for instructing media literacy in K through 12. The consultant will then present the report to a diverse committee of stakeholders to refine recommendations for future implementation. It is important because I believe in the power of fair, ethical, and honest communications. As a society, our decisions are only as good as the information we take in to form our opinions. The media landscape has changed dramatically in the last few decades. Students are facing the largest and most complex information landscape in human history, and they are constantly inundated with information. We must prepare them to deal with this. Understanding how to discern, create, and perpetuate credible information in our society is critical. Kids need to understand if pictures, memes, and videos are real, some of the technology in this area is amazing, and recognize the hallmarks of legitimate news, which includes proper attribution, full disclosure, is this fact or is this opinion, what's an objective source and the importance of seeking several of these, and trustworthy and credible research. This is a real problem and we can help fix it for future generations. I'm asking for a yes vote.
Representative Baisley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have two problems with this bill. I'd rather we not pass it in the first place, but if we are, this sets up a committee, an advisory committee, to recommend to educators on how to bring students up to speed in K-12 on the media, and that committee will be comprised of nonprofit organizations, an academic expert in media literacy, a nonprofit media literacy person, a professional journalist, a teacher, two teachers, a librarian, a parent, and a school administrator, and one student. Perhaps if the commission were composed of a farmer, a rancher, and a soldier, then they might be able to bring the skepticism necessary to advise students to look at things from the media critically. This group would not have that background, would not have that lack of bias. So that's my first problem with it. The second is it's got a safety clause. No need for a safety clause on this one. I recommend a no vote with all due respect.
Representative Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise in opposition to 1110, the media literacy curriculum. I found it interesting. There was a fact sheet that was passed around before we heard the bill in committee, and it referenced Media Literacy Now. Media Literacy Now is a left-leaning organization. I just find it hypocritical that we're trying to prevent some sort of bias and identify bias for children, but yet the fact sheet that we're going to put out actually has a left-leaning and therefore bias included in it. So I would urge a no vote, and with that, I request the bill be read at length.
Mr. Randall, please read the bill.
First regular session, 72nd General Assembly, State of Colorado, introduced LLS No. 19-0641.01 Jacob Bowes X 2173 House Bill 19 to 1110 House Committees Senate Committees Education A Bill for an Act concerning implementing media literacy in elementary and 101 secondary education. 102 Bill Summary. Note: this summary applies to this bill as introduced and does not reflect any amendments that may be subsequently adopted. If this bill passes third reading in the House of Introduction, a bill summary that applies to the re-engrossed version of this bill will be available at http://lake.colorado.government. The bill creates the Media Literacy Advisory Committee within the Department of Education. The committee is responsible for studying media literacy and creating a report for the education committees of the House of Representatives and the Senate regarding the committee's findings and recommendations for implementing media literacy in elementary and secondary education. House sponsorship cutter. Senate sponsorship. None. Shading denotes House amendment. Double underlining denotes Senate amendment. Capital letters or bold and new material to be added to existing statute. Dashes through the words indicate deletions from existing statute. The department to implement media literacy in elementary and secondary education standards based upon the committee's report. Be it enacted by the General Assembly of the State of Colorado 1 Section 1. In Colorado Revised Statutes, add 22-2-145 as 2 follows 322-2-145. Media Literacy, Committee, Report, Strategic Plan for, Definition, Repeal. 1. For purposes of this section, unless the 5 context otherwise requires, media literacy means the 6. A. Ability to access, analyze, evaluate, create, and act 7 through the various forms of media. 8. B. Ability to analyze the reliability of information 9 claims and sources presented in the various forms of media. And 10. C. Practice of digital citizenship, including norms of 11 appropriate and responsible behavior and discourse when 12 engaging with media, and the prevention of cyberbullying. Point 13. 2. There is created in the Department of Education the 14 Media Literacy Advisory Committee, referred to in this section as 15 the committee. The committee shall create a report containing 16 recommendations and best practices for implementing media 17 literacy into elementary and secondary education. Point 18. A. The Commissioner of Education shall appoint the 19 following members to serve on the committee. 20. I. 1 member who is an academic expert in media. 21 literacy. 22. 2. 1 member who represents a nonprofit organization. 23 specializing in media literacy. 24 HB 19-1110-2. 3. 1 member who is a professional journalist. 1. 4. 1 member who is a teacher from a rural area of the 2 state. 3. V. 1 member who is a teacher from an urban area of 4 the state. 5. 6. 1 member who is a librarian. 6. 7. 1 member who represents a parent organization. 7. 8. 1 member who is a school administrator. And 8. 9. 1 member who is a student. Point 9. B. The Commissioner of Education shall make the 10 appointments to the committee no later than 2 months after 11 the effective date of this section, and the committee shall 12 convene no later than 3 months after the effective date of 13 this section. Point 14. 3. The report created in subsection 2 of this section 15 must include, but is not limited to 16. A. Recommended revisions to State Education Standard 17 for reading, writing, and civics, pursuant to Section 22-7-100518. 2. A. To implement media literacy in elementary and secondary 19 education. 20. B. Best practices and models for instruction in media. 21. Literacy. 22. C. Recommended materials and resources for teachers. to 23. Adopt for media literacy instruction. 24. D. Recommended legislation or rules to implement media. 25. Literacy in elementary and secondary education. 26. E. Best practices for school districts to develop policies. 27 HB 19-1110-3. And regarding media literacy. 1. F. Strategies to support school districts implementing 2. The best practices and recommendations developed by the 3 committee. And 4. G. Recommended opportunities to recognize students and 5 teachers who demonstrate excellence in media literacy. Point 6. 4. On or before March 1, 2020, the committee shall submit 7. The written report of its findings and recommendations. 8. Developed pursuant to subsection 3 of this section to the 9 education committees of the House of Representatives and the 10 Senate, or any successor committees. Point 11. 5. On or before September 1, 2020, pursuant to subsection 12, 4 of this section, the department shall implement media 13 literacy in elementary and secondary education standards to 14 the extent practicable based upon the recommendations 15 contained in the report provided by the committee pursuant to 16 subsection 4 of this section. Point 17. 6. This section is repealed, effective July 1, 2021.18 Section 2. Safety Clause. The General Assembly hereby finds 19 determines and declares that this act is necessary for the immediate 20 preservation of the public peace, health, and safety. Point 21H.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Soper.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I also rise in opposition of this bill. This, to me, does exactly what has always frustrated me in the world of education. We spend our precious tax dollars to hire just another consultant who comes back with different recommendations which never reach our kids in the classroom. And as the son of a teacher who taught for 40 years and having aunts who taught also for over 40 years, this is exactly what they complained about: hiring more consultants, creating more committees to get in the way of our teachers. In many ways, what we need to be doing is empowering our teachers to actually teach. And when we dive into media literacy, the bill talks about, and the bill sponsor mentioned, help discern fact versus fiction or opinion. I don't know about you, But if the media is a traditional book or a traditional newspaper or digital content or a digital newspaper or a blog, those critical learning skills are already being taught in the classroom. The ability to discern fact from fiction is already a critical skill that's being taught. The other thing that really concerns me is here this same body reject the concept of basic life skills education. But yet we're wanting to dive back into an area that's already being taught. It's already being done. Hand a phone, a cell phone, to a 5-year-old and tell me that they're unable to navigate that phone, and tell me that they're not sophisticated enough to figure out how to get into an app that perhaps all of us in this chamber are unable to do. It also disturbs me that here we have a commission that's being set up of adults who, quite frankly, are going to be well behind the curve on technology. We need to send this money back into the classroom and empower our teachers. I would just like to tell a story about Delta. So as many of you are aware, in the 1990s, the Delta public schools were actually highlighted as being some of the best schools in the nation. And both Germany and Japan sent delegations over. And this was because the Delta public schools were some of the first to have computers for every student in the classroom. Already, at a very early stage, for nearly 25 years, we have school districts in rural parts of the state who have been engaging in what this is actually trying to do. It would be media literacy. I mean, using our technology through computers and the internet. And this is something that really disturbs me, because we're trying to implement a bill that, quite frankly, if it were to have had its heyday, would have been about 30 years ago and not today. Students are very sophisticated nowadays. Teachers are very sophisticated. Let's empower the teachers. Let's allow our teachers to continue to teach, and to teach the critical skills that they are teaching right now. So I would ask for a no vote.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1110? Seeing none, the question, Representative Sane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And colleagues, my concern on this bill comes from talking to some teachers even as early as this morning. They're very frustrated about all they're being asked to do and a continuing added burdens that seem to be put on their shoulders every single year. Not only do they have a lot of testing that they have to do, but on top of that, we're going to add media literacy. One of the things I want to talk about, I don't know if the bill sponsor is aware of the percentage of high school students who meet or exceed expectations in science. The most recent CMAS test is 24.1% statewide. And are we aware that the percentage of 7th grade students who meet or exceed expectations in social studies on the most recent CMAS test is 15.7%? Or how about the percentage of 8th grade students who met or exceeded expectations in math on CMAS tests? 28.2%. Math is pretty important, especially since we're pushing STEM in this state. But we're going to add this on top of everything else. What is our core curriculum? It used to be reading, writing, and arithmetic. I know our teachers know that. Our teachers want to teach that. They want to make sure that our students are ready for middle school, high school, and college preparedness. We don't need to add one more thing. I'm going to ask for no vote on this bill.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Wilson, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, I know you're discussing this bill, so I want to give you some more things to talk about. Representative Cutter has not got a bad idea. It's just not a good time for this idea. We're talking about adding curriculum at a time when our students are struggling. I want you to hear a couple of things that we heard in testimony. One of the reasons for this bill is a large percentage of students cannot discern advertisements. Oh my. Where's the outrage, folks? Representative Sane was up here talking about percentage of test scores and no one was paying attention. These are your students. These are our students with English skills at the 8th grade level. Over half the students are not proficient. Over half are not proficient. In math, 8th grade, 73% are not proficient. In social studies, 84% are not proficient. In science, 69% are not proficient. Are you starting to get the picture? Our students are not learning what they need to be learning, and now we're concerned about whether they're going to be media literate or not. Catch this. One of the witnesses said students don't need to know how to read. Where's the outrage? We sit here today in this chamber talking about whether we're going to add media literacy to our students, which again is not a bad idea, but it would be good if they pulled media up on their screen and they were able to read it. And they cannot read. Where is the outrage in this chamber that all of our students are miserably performing on those assessments? Quit putting extra things on our educators and let them teach kids how to read and write and do math and understand social studies. Anyone who would testify and say students don't need to know how to read is a little off base from the world of education. I urge a no vote on this bill.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill? Representative Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I move Amendment L016 and ask it to be properly displayed.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed, Representative Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, this amendment is a pretty simple one. The bill repeats over and over again that all the members of this committee or this commission must be a member of a professional association. This amendment simply just says that there can't be more than one member of the same professional association. I think it's critical that if we're going to talk about bias and we're going to try and instruct on bias, if we have groupthink from folks from the same professional organization, I think we lean towards the direction of possibly creating some bias. This is just a safeguard, belts and suspenders type sort of thing that will help prevent us from having groupthink in the determination of what is an appropriate curriculum to devise for our students in the approach of media literacy curriculum. So I urge a yes vote.
Representative Michelson-Janae.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We discussed this at great length in committee, and people could belong to the same professional association like a Rotary Club or other organization like that, and that would make them ineligible for this. I ask for a no vote. We voted it down in committee. Let's vote it down again.
Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I also urge a yes vote on this. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if we're going to be teaching media literacy and every single member on this board comes from an organization like Colorado Education Association, the CEA, they are going to have an instinctive bias towards what they think that curriculum should be and how those students should be taught. I, for one, don't think we should be teaching in schools at all. I think that Representative Wilson laid that out really well, that we've got other things to deal with, and it's probably more the parents' job. But if we are going to do it, this is a very simple and common sense amendment to try to bring some diversity to this board so there's not just one group of thought coming from those who are developing this curriculum.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Buck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I also ask for a yes on this amendment. This is a good, just basic amendment that will help this bill be a better bill. And I ask my colleagues on the other side to rethink what you're doing to the kids in terms of this issue. So I ask for a yes on this on this amendment. Thank you.
Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I ask for a yes vote on the amendment as well. I think it's important that committees bring in different forms of thought, different ideas, different groups that all come together and come up with great ideas. And so I think this is a great amendment and urge a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, I want to emphasize a point that was just made by Representative Buck, and I think it is about fairness. You know, we want to sit back and devise a curriculum and empower a certain group of people to go ahead and devise what that curriculum looks like. This just says, let's not have the group think. Let's have a diverse set of people from multiple professional associations and ensure that there isn't any more than just one type, that there is only up to one professional association. So members, I just come up here again to reemphasize an urgency in passing this amendment, which would make this bill a little bit better. It would safeguard some of the curriculum that we're going to introduce to our children, and I would appreciate your support and your aye vote.
Any further discussion on L016? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L016 to House Bill 1110. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The amendment fails. To the bill. Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, this was brought up earlier by a different member, but I definitely agree with that sentiment, that you can't say with a straight face that this bill is necessary for the immediate preservation of public health and peace and safety. Quite frankly, this bill, by the time it goes into effect, most of our students are going to be breaking, and just convening a group to develop a curriculum is not needed for the immediate preservation of public peace, health, and safety. So for that reason, I move L014 and ask for it to be displayed.
The amendment before us is properly displayed. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, members, we keep abusing this clause over and over, and I don't think we should be doing that. I urge a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion on L01? Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if we act like the little boy that cried wolf and always come out with, this is such an emergency and we have to address this right now. It's good. The sky's going to fall if we don't take care of this right this very second. It's an emergency. I think we start killing our ability to really address emergencies when they do happen. And so for that reason, I actually agree that this, that we should vote yes on this amendment and have the petition clause added instead of the safety clause. Please vote yes.
Representative Sane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will agree with that. Look, a lot of my constituents told me they've stopped watching some of the news media because it seems like it's driven by the outrage industry. So that's something they've told me. And honestly, this amendment kind of plays into that just a little bit because not everything's a fire. And we need to pay particular attention to what we're putting on the bottom of our bills. If we're saying to the voters, we're not going to let you vote on this, it's too important, that should really be reserved for very, very limited things that have to do with public health and safety. So I'm asking, this is a friendly amendment, I'm asking for a yes vote on this.
Any further discussion on Assistant Minority Leader Van Winkle?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, members, I don't think anyone with a straight face can sincerely say that this is for the immediate preservation of peace, health, and safety. If anything, if there's any emergency here, it's some members of this body feeling there is a political emergency here, and that's an inappropriate use of the safety clause. I ask for a yes vote on this amendment.
Any further discussion on L014? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L014 to HB 1110. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The amendment is lost. To the bill. Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do want to thank the sponsors for bringing this bill. I like us looking at the media, and I like everybody looking at what the pros and cons are. And I hope that our students are learning literacy of all kinds. And I especially want to hope and thank that the students from Eagle Ridge Elementary of Lone Tree are learning their literacy as well. And I know I'm not supposed to introduce them here, but I will welcome the students from Eagle Ridge Elementary that are here in the gallery saying hi to us. And at the same time, I will ask for a no vote on the bill. I feel like our students should be doing things like learning reading, writing, arithmetic, history, science, and taking wonderful field trips to the Capitol to learn about our government here. So thank you so much. And again, I urge a no vote on the bill.
Any Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, you know, I do have concerns how this is going to place additional burdens on our teachers trying to teach basic things that need to be taught in classrooms. This is going to take their attention away from that and quite frankly be doing something that should be done by the parents. And if that's not happening, we can't control everything in this chamber. So because of that, I think that there's a repeal date on this, and I move L015 and ask for it to be displayed.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, you know, I think a more proper repeal date to this law is today rather than July 1st, 2020, so I ask for a yes vote.
Any further discussion on Representative Buck?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I absolutely agree with this amendment. I have to tell you, I don't know if anybody else is listening to their teachers, but I want you to know I am. I respect Representative Wilson. I think he's done a yeoman's job. He knows everything there is on education. He does not support this bill. This is a great amendment to take care of this bad bill. So I ask a yes on this amendment. Thank you.
Any further discussion on L015? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L015 to HB 1110. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The amendment is lost. To the bill. Is there any further discussion on HB 1110? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1110. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The bill passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title to House Bill 1120. You
can leave when you need to.
House Bill 1120 by Representatives Michelson, Janae, and Roberts, also Senators Fenberg and Coram, concerning multiple approaches to prevent youth suicide.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1120, the Public Health Care and Human Services Committee report and the Appropriations Committee report.
To the Appropriations report. Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the Appropriations Committee this morning, we made an appropriation. I'd ask for an aye vote.
The question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations report to House Bill 1120. Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, I'm playing a little bit catch up. I had a question for the bill sponsors. As far as I understand the Appropriations Committee report, there was essentially looks like a strike below, is that correct? Yes. Right. Okay. Sorry. Like I said, I'm playing catch up.
Not in appropriations.
It
was in public health.
It's public health. Oh, well then, never mind. I'm on the wrong report. I take it back.
Any further discussion on the Appropriations report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations report to HB 1120. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The report is adopted. To the Public Health Care and Human Services report, Representative Michelson, Janae.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did have a strike below, which became the bulk of the bill. And in that strike below, we did some very significant work with the community to look at all of the different laws that impact youth. And there were some laws from other states that members of the community felt more comfortable with, that gave parents more rights and more abilities, and we adopted that language. I ask for an aye vote.
Any discussion on Representative Landgraf?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've heard this bill or a similar version in committee several times, and I'll be honest, I'm always conflicted because nobody would ever wish that a child would commit suicide. So the question becomes, what is the solution? And I want to speak specifically to the committee report because one part that really bothers me, it says, if the mental health professional determines that the minor is knowingly and voluntarily seeking such service, so that gives them permission to meet with the mental health professional without the consent of the minor's parent or legal guardian, but they've already met with them for the professional to know that the minor is knowingly and voluntarily seeking such services. So it's a bit of a backwards situation in here. The mental health professional has to have met with that person to make that determination, and yet that's one of the criteria to meet without parental consent, if that makes any sense. And the reason this really bothers me is I think we've probably all known people who have sought out counseling, and sometimes they have to meet with 2, 3, 4 different professionals before they find that person that works for them, that they're comfortable with. A child wouldn't know that, and to allow them to continue meeting with a professional without parental consent, there's no way to know what sort of advice those kids are getting, what sort of direction they're getting, and that could be completely detrimental to the relationship with the parents. There has to be a better solution, and I don't think we've come to that. I don't think we've figured it out yet, and I definitely don't think it's in this bill. I ask for a no vote.
Any further discussion on the Public Health Committee report? Representative Liston?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members, I too sit on the Public Health and Human Services Committee, and we did hear this bill. There was a lot of testimony on it. This was about six weeks ago. It's quite a while ago. Anyways, what we heard, we heard a lot of interesting, compelling, interesting testimony, but I too am concerned that a 12-year-old is mature enough to make these important decisions about their future and their well-being that can impact, obviously it does impact their lives, pro or con, especially to not have that line of communication open with the very people who love them the most, which is their parents, and to, I'll say, somewhat encourage them, because that's the purpose of this, to make a decision that does affect their lives without consulting with their parents. I think this is a real mistake. I know that people are on the other side of the issue, that they mean well, but I just can't imagine young people that are 12 years old that can make this type of decision that will impact their lives so dramatically. Their brains, quite frankly, all 12-year-olds, their brains are not fully developed. And to meet with a psychiatrist or a counselor that may have the best of intents, and to keep the parent out of the equation, I think is a real mistake. So with that, I would urge a no vote on House Bill 1120, with all due respect.
We're
a
on
no
the
vote.
committee report. Representative Pelton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I also sat on the committee that heard this bill. I feel for the kids that have parents that they can't go to get the permission for this, but I protect parental rights with everything I've got. And once we start chipping away with that, Katie barred the door. So I would urge a no vote.
Representative Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I won't belabor the points, but I too sat on public health, and this was a difficult bill, certainly an issue worth exploring. But again, when we're talking about 12-year-olds making a very important, grave decision, I just didn't feel comfortable cutting the parents out of that decision process for up to 5 visits. It's important that we strike a balance here because this is literally people's lives. And I feel, while the bill is certainly well-intentioned, that it goes too far in the other way, and I think may end up further isolating children from their parents. So with that, I would encourage us to vote against the committee report and the underlying bill. Thank you.
Is there Representative Landgraf?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Wow.
I wanted to speak to another part of this report that concerns me. And again, it's one of those areas that it's not a bad idea at all, but I'm not sure how you would accomplish it. And that is that psychotherapy services must be provided in a culturally appropriate manner. Now, these are kids who are going to see somebody, presumably, I mean, at a school is going to be their best resource because that's where they are and that's where they see people. So how does the school or any place else accomplish that? I don't understand how that works. I don't understand the burden that you would be putting on the school or the psychotherapist to provide culturally competent, a culturally appropriate manner. So let's say you have a student or a 12-year-old who happens to be a Native American. Maybe they're, I don't know, maybe they're Navajo and they have certain traditions and they have certain beliefs, and you have to figure out how to give them culturally appropriate counseling. Where would you go to get that? Where would you go to find that? And yet it would be mandated in this bill that you do just that. And it would be appropriate. It would be an appropriate thing to do. And if it's left to the parent would be able to do that. The parent could take them to the appropriate person who would understand their beliefs and their customs. But just to randomly be able to find that person would be extremely difficult. Again, I ask for a no vote.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Got it right now. I'm on the right report. Members, with respect to this report, because it essentially changes the bill, I did have a few concerns about the parental consent piece and also a few concerns related to psychotherapy services and the standards that the State Board would be adopting and essentially promoting. So with that, I move Amendment L016 and ask it be displayed.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed. Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, part of the issue that one of the reasons why I'm running this is because I think overall what the report, effectively the bill, does is it kind of gets away from, I think, what's critical to ensuring that we reduce the number of youth suicides. It essentially gets away from that relationship between parents and children. It actually, I know the bill, or in the committee report, it does make reference that psychotherapists and other individuals should encourage these minors to talk and notify their parents. But I do think there is great danger in that minors are going to go ahead and not actually talk to their parents, and they're going to seek psychotherapy services without their consent, and that's a problem. And so what this amendment would do is it would get rid of the without consent part. And then it would also allow for psychotherapy services to include religious and non-religious practitioners. And it would also require the Board of Education to come up with standards that would encourage, foster, and strengthen healthy relationships between parents and children. If we're going to prevent youth suicide, then we need more parent involvement in the lives of their children and vice versa. And children need to be able to go and speak with their parents, and parents need to be able to speak with their children, and we don't need to try and put a damper on that relationship. And I think if we're really going to tackle this issue, we need to make sure that we have healthy family units and that we're encouraging families to talk and speak with each other. And we need to allow them the freedom to seek religious practitioners as well as non-religious practitioners within that process for their mental health. So I would ask for a yes vote on this. I think it helps make it get to a place that I could certainly see myself supporting, but absent this, I could not vote on this committee report or the bill as it is now. So please vote yes.
Is there further discussion on Amendment L16? Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members ask for a no vote on the amendment.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L16 to the Public Health Care and Human Services Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Amendment L16. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The noes have it. The amendment fails. Representative Humphrey to the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I just wanted to discuss some of my sort of overarching concerns with what's going on here with the bill. Of course, it has a very, very weak concept of parental rights, which is really disturbing, that parents could be so quickly kept out of the picture based on the decision of a school therapist. There's concerns, obviously, about suggestibility of children in counseling. There's the concern, of course, that if parents are not notified, that we're creating a situation that pits children against parents, potentially, where they're put in a position of lying to their parents. And I think that's an ethical concern with the bill as it's written, especially down at the age of 12, which previous iterations of this bill had been amended to not be, to have such a low threshold in terms of age. And I'm just concerned about, in some instances where a therapist might decide that a child should be embarrassed or concerned about speaking with their parents, that they could interfere in that relationship. And I think there's a lot in this bill that is very concerning, and that Coloradans should be aware of. Many folks, well, including myself, I didn't really realize that, not being on the committee, that we had a strike below amendment that significantly changed the content of the bill. So for that reason, I think it'd be appropriate to request that this committee, a reference report for public health, care, and human services, be read at length. Thank you.
The committee will stand in a brief recess. The committee will come back to order. There's been a request by Representative Humphrey that the Public Health Care and Human Services Committee report be read at length. Mr. Randall.
HB 1120_H_PHC.001 House Committee of Reference Report _____________________________________________________________________________________________________________________ Committee on Public Health Care and Human Services. After consideration on the merits, The committee recommends the following: HB 19-1120 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. Amend printed bill, strike everything below the enacting clause and 1 substitute 2 Section 1. Legislative Declaration. 1. The General 3 Assembly finds that 4a. The Federal Centers for Disease Control and Prevention found 5 suicide to be the 10th leading cause of death for all ages in 2017 and is 6 currently the leading cause of death for Colorado youth who are 7 through 14 years of age. 8b. According to the Colorado Health Institute, Colorado has the 9/10th highest suicide rate in the nation, and rates of suicide in the eastern 10 plains of Colorado doubled from 2016 to 2017. 11c. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, approximately 21.4% of youth who are 13 through 15 years of age experience a severe mental health disorder. 14d. According to the American Association of Suicidology, the 15 suicide rate for youth who are 10 through 14 years of age has increased by more than 50% over the past 3 decades. And 17e. Youth who are 10 through 14 years of age often avoid obtaining, or are legally unable to obtain without parental consent 19 outpatient psychotherapy services that would help them prior to reaching 20 crisis levels because they are embarrassed or concerned about speaking. 21 with their parent or legal guardian about their mental health concerns, and 22 situations. 23. 2. The General Assembly therefore declares that it is a matter of 24 HB 1120_H_PHC.001. Concern to allow youth who are 12 years of age or older to 1. Have legal access to outpatient psychotherapy services that might 2. Otherwise be unavailable without the consent of or notification to the 3. Youth's parent or legal guardian. Providing these youth with access to 4 outpatient psychotherapy services is intended to reduce youth suicides, and 5. Allow registered psychotherapists and licensed social workers to work 6 with youth to teach them functional coping skills. Mental health. 7. Professionals would have further opportunity to help these youth build 8. Healthy connections with parents or legal guardians by increasing 9. Communication and strengthening the bond between parent and child. 10. Thus building an ongoing non-clinical support system for youth to use to 11. Manage their mental health concerns. 12. Section 2. In Colorado Revised Statutes, 12-43-201, amend 13, 9a, as follows: 1412-43-201. Definitions. As used in this Article 43, unless the 15 context otherwise requires 16, 9a, psychotherapy, or psychotherapy services, means 17 the treatment, diagnosis, testing, assessment, or counseling in a 18 professional relationship to assist individuals or groups to alleviate 19 behavioral and mental health disorders, understand unconscious or 20 conscious motivation, resolve emotional, relationship, or attitudinal 21 conflicts, or modify behaviors that interfere with effective emotional 22 social, or intellectual functioning. Psychotherapy follows a Plan 23 procedure of intervention that takes place on a regular basis, over a period 24 of time, or in the cases of testing, assessment, and brief psychotherapy 25. Psychotherapy can be a single intervention. 26 Section 3. In Colorado Revised Statutes, add 12-43-202.5 as 27 follows 28. 12-43-202.5. Minors, consent for outpatient psychotherapy. 29 services, immunity, definition. 1. As used in this section, unless 30 the context otherwise requires, mental health professional. 31 includes a professional person as defined in section 27-65-10232. 17. A mental health professional licensed pursuant to Part 333, 4, 5, 6, or 8 of this Article 43, or a school social worker licensed 34 by the Department of Education. 35. 2. Notwithstanding any other provision of law, a mental 36 health professional described in subsection 1 of this section 37 may provide psychotherapy services as defined in section 38. 12-43-201, 9a, to a minor who is 12 years of age or older. 39 with or without the consent of the minor's parent or legal 40 guardian, if the mental health professional determines that 41 HB 1120_H_PHC.001-2 a. There is knowingly and voluntarily seeking such 1 services, and 2. b. The provision of psychotherapy services is clinically 3 indicated and necessary to the minor's well-being. 4. 3. a. The mental health professional may notify the 5 minor's parent or legal guardian of the psychotherapy services 6 given or needed, with the minor's consent, or, with the consent 7 of the individual who a court has ordered holds the minor S8 therapeutic privilege, unless notifying the parent or legal 9. Guardian would be inappropriate or detrimental to the minor S10 care and treatment. 11. b. The mental health professional shall engage the 12 minor in a discussion about the importance of involving and 13 notifying the minor's parent or legal guardian, and shall 14 encourage such notification to help support the minor's care, and 15 treatment. 16. c. Notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 3a of 17 this section, a mental health professional may notify the minor S18 parent or legal guardian of the psychotherapy services given or 19 needed, without the minor's consent, if in the professional 20 opinion of the mental health professional, the minor is unable to 21 manage the minor's care or treatment. 22. 4. A mental health professional described in subsection 23, 1, of this section shall fully document when the mental health 24 professional attempts to contact or notify the minor's parent or 25 legal guardian, and whether the attempt was successful or 26 unsuccessful, or the reason why, in the mental health 27 professional's opinion, it would be inappropriate to contact or 28 notify the minor's parent or legal guardian. Documentation 29 must be included in the minor's clinical record, along with the 30 written statement signed by the minor indicating that the minor 31 is voluntarily seeking psychotherapy services. 32. 5. Psychotherapy services must be provided in a 33 culturally appropriate manner. Written and oral instruction 34 training of providers and staff, and the overall provision of 35 services must be culturally appropriate and provided in a 36 manner and format to support individuals with limited English 37 proficiency or challenges with accessibility related to a 38 disability and with respect for diverse backgrounds, including 39 individuals with different cultural origins and individuals who 40 are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. 41 HB 1120_H_PHC.001-3. As used in this section, psychotherapy services do not include inpatient psychotherapy services. Psychotropic 2 medication may not be prescribed to a minor who is 3 years of age or younger without parental consent. 7. If a minor who is receiving psychotherapy services 5 pursuant to the section communicates a clear and imminent 6 intent or threat to inflict serious bodily harm on themselves or 7 others, the mental health professional described in subsection 8.1 of this section is subject to the notification provisions of 9 section 13-21-117, 2.10, 8, if a minor who is receiving psychotherapy services 11 pursuant to the section communicates an intent to commit 12 suicide, the mental health professional described in subsection 13.1 of this section shall notify the minor's parent or legal 14 guardian of such suicidology. 15 section 4. In Colorado revised statutes, add 22-2-127.9 as 16 follows 1722-2-127.9. Mental health education literacy, resource bank 18, technical assistance. 1. The department, with assistance from 19 the Office of Suicide Prevention created pursuant to section 2025-1.5-101, 1, W.I. The Colorado Youth Advisory Council 21 created pursuant to section February 2, 1302, and the Suicide Prevention 22 Commission created pursuant to section 25-1.5-111 shall create 23 and maintain a resource bank of evidence-based, research-based 24 and promising program materials and curriculum pertaining to 25 mental health, which materials and curriculum may be used in 26 elementary and secondary schools in the state. The Resource 27 bank and curriculum must be youth-friendly, culturally 28 sensitive, and available in both English and Spanish. In creating 29 the Resource Bank and curricula, the department may provide 30 internet links to resources and materials pertaining to mental 31 health available from other entities that the department finds 32 reliable. Additionally, the department shall solicit input from 33 persons, including youth, within and outside of the mental 34 health profession, including both community and school mental 35 health professionals. Subject to available appropriations, the 36 department shall solicit requests for information and May 37 contract for 38A, the organization and enhancement of the Resource 39 Bank, including materials on the prevention of suicide and 40 education on mental health, 41 HB 1120_H_PHC.001-4. B. The development of mental health curricula for 1 schools and providing such curricula to schools, and 2. C. Training for educators and school staff concerning 3 mental health. 4. 2. On and after July 1, 2020, the department shall make 5 material in the resource bank available without charge to 6 school districts, charter schools, institute charter schools, 7 boards of cooperative services, professional educators, parents 8 or guardians of youth, students, and community providers. At 9 the request of a school district, charter school, institute 10 charter school, or board of cooperative services, the 11 department shall provide technical assistance to the school 12 district, charter school, institute charter school, or board of 13 cooperative services in designing age-appropriate curricula 14 pertaining to mental health. 15. 3. The materials and resources available to students 16 must be developed and updated with input from youth. 17. 4. School districts, charter schools, institute charter 18 schools, and boards of cooperative services are encouraged to 19 report to the department on the effectiveness of the Resource 20 Bank and curricula and to recommend changes to improve the 21 Resource Bank or curricula. The department is encouraged to 22 update the Resource Bank and curricula based on 23 recommendations from school districts, charter schools 24 institute charter schools, boards of cooperative services 25 professional educators, parents, or guardians of youth 26 students, and community providers. 27 Section 5. In Colorado Revised Statutes, 22-7-1005, add 2.3, 28 as follows 2922-7-1005. Preschool through elementary and secondary 30 education, aligned standards, adoption, revisions. 2.3, on or 31 before July 1, 2020, the State Board shall adopt standards that 32 identify the knowledge and skills that an elementary through 33 secondary education student should acquire related to mental 34 health, including suicide prevention. When the State Board IS 35 adopting standards, the State Board shall take into account 36 what local education providers are currently teaching with 37 regard to mental health. 38 Section 6. In Colorado Revised Statutes, amend as relocated 39 by House Bill 19 to 1172 12-245-202, 14, A, as follows 4012-245-202. Definitions. As used in this Article 245, unless the 41 HB 1120_H_PHC.001-5. WISE requires 1, 14, A. Psychotherapy or psychotherapy services means 2 the treatment, diagnosis, testing, assessment, or counseling in a 3 professional relationship to assist individuals or groups to alleviate 4 behavioral and mental health disorders, understand unconscious or 5 conscious motivation, resolve emotional, relationship, or attitudinal 6 conflicts, or modify behaviors that interfere with effective emotional 7 social or intellectual functioning. Psychotherapy follows a planned 8 procedure of intervention that takes place on a regular basis, over a period 9 of time, or in the cases of testing, assessment, and brief psychotherapy 10. Psychotherapy can be a single intervention. Point 11 Section 7. In Colorado Revised Statutes, add to Article 24512 as relocated by House Bill 19 to 1172 12-245-203.5 as follows 1312-245-203.5. Minors, consent for outpatient psychotherapy 14 services, immunity, definition. 1. As used in this section, unless 15 the context otherwise requires, mental health professional 16 includes a professional person as defined in section 27-65-10217, 17, a mental health professional licensed pursuant to Part 3, 4, 5, 6, or 8 of this Article 245, or a school social worker licensed 19 by the Department of Education. Point 20, 2, notwithstanding any other provision of law, a mental 21 health professional described in subsection 1 of this section 22 may provide psychotherapy services. As defined in section 2312-245-202, 14, a, to a minor who is 12 years of age or older 24 with or without the consent of the minor's parent or legal 25 guardian, if the mental health professional determines that 26, a, the minor is knowingly and voluntarily seeking such 27 services, and 28, b, the provision of psychotherapy services is clinically 29 indicated and necessary to the minor's well-being. Point 30, 3, a, the mental health professional may notify the 31 minor's parent or legal guardian of the psychotherapy services 32 given or needed, with the minor's consent, unless notifying the 33 parent or legal guardian would be inappropriate or detrimental. 34 to the minor's care and treatment. 35, b, the mental health professional shall engage the 36 minor in a discussion about the importance of involving and 37 notifying the minor's parent or legal guardian and shall 38 encourage such notification to help support the minor's care and 39 treatment. Point 40, c, notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 3a of 41 HB 1120_H_PHC.001-6. A mental health professional may notify the minor's one parent or legal guardian of the psychotherapy services given or to needed, without the minor's consent, if in the professional 3 opinion of the mental health professional, the minor is unable to manage the minor's care or treatment. Point 5, 4, a mental health professional described in subsection 6, 1, of this section shall fully document when the mental health 7 professional attempts to contact or notify the minor's parent or 8 legal guardian, and whether the attempt was successful or 9 unsuccessful, or the reason why. In the mental health 10 professional's opinion, it would be inappropriate to contact or 11 notify the minor's parent or legal guardian. Documentation 12 must be included in the minor's clinical record, along with a 13 written statement signed by the minor indicating that the minor 14 is voluntarily seeking psychotherapy services. Point 15, 5, psychotherapy services must be provided in a 16 culturally appropriate manner. Written and oral instruction 17 training of providers and staff, and the overall provision of 18 services must be culturally appropriate and provided in a 19 manner and format to support individuals with limited English 20 proficiency or challenges with accessibility related to a 21 disability and with respect for diverse backgrounds, including 22 individuals with different cultural origins and individuals who 23 are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. Point 24, 6, as used in this section. Psychotherapy services do not 25 include inpatient psychotherapy services. Psychotropic 26 medication may not be prescribed to a minor who is 27 years of age or younger without parental consent. Point 28, 7, if a minor who is receiving psychotherapy services 29 pursuant to the section communicates a clear and imminent 30 intent or threat to inflict serious bodily harm on themselves or 31 others, the mental health professional described in subsection 32, 1, of this section is subject to the notification provisions of 33 section 13-21-117, 2.34, 8, if a minor who is receiving psychotherapy services 35 pursuant to subsections 2 and 3 of this section communicates 36 an intent to commit suicide, the mental health professional 37 described in subsection 1 of this section shall notify the 38 minor's parent or legal guardian of such suicidology. 39 Section 8. Effective date. This act takes effect upon passage, 40 except that section 6 and 7 of this act take effect only if House Bill 41 HB 1120_H_PHC.001-7. 1172 becomes law, in which case section 6 and 7 take effect on 1 October 1, 2000, and 19.2 Section 9. Safety Clause. The General Assembly hereby finds 3 determines and declares that this act is necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, and safety. 5 HB 1120_H_PHC.001-8.
Thank you, Mr. Randall. Members, I need to clarify one thing. I made a mistake, and I should have asked Representative Humphrey to wait to make his request to read the bill at length until we were on the bill itself, not the committee report. It is not the custom and practice of the Committee of the Whole or the House of Representatives to read amendments or committee reports at length. In the future, we will only be looking at those requests when it comes to the bill. We are back to the committee report. Is there any further discussion on the Public Health Care and Human Services Committee report? Representative Humphrey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate the clarification there. I do have a concern returning to the issue of not notifying the parents, particularly when there is a concern of a potential for self-harm. So I move L012 and ask for it to be properly displayed. I don't know.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed, Representative Humphrey.
So the way this amendment reads would state that if a mental health professional treats a minor without notifying the minor's parent or legal guardian, and the minor commits an act of self-harm that results in his or her death, the parent shall be notified of the psychotherapy services. But I move L014 as a substitute amendment and ask that it be properly displayed.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed. Members, this is a substitute amendment to the previous amendment offered by Representative Humphrey.
No, I don't have the packet. So this amendment clarifies that this is simply any act of self-harm, and that the parent should be notified, given access to records from the psychotherapy services, so that there is full disclosure in the instance that that circumstance arises when the parents are not informed of what's happening with their child's care. And I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members that asked for a no vote, it's my belief that an amendment like this would violate HIPAA and would not be legal. Ask for a no vote.
Further question? Seeing no further. I got it. Is there any further discussion on Amendment L14? Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, Representative Roberts, that you should probably look into that because as we know from our age of marriage bill, anybody under the age of 18 basically doesn't have those rights. Their guardian has those rights, so I'm not sure that this would violate HIPAA at all.
Any further discussion on L014? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L014. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The amendment is lost. To L012. Is there any further discussion? Representative Humphrey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With reference to L012, we're speaking specifically of self-harm that results in death after psychotherapy and the parents having no knowledge of the situation, in which, according to this amendment, the parent shall be notified of the services. And I don't think that there's any HIPAA question there, even though there was no HIPAA violation on the previous amendment. So I ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Any further discussion on L012? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L012. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The amendment is lost. To the committee report. Representative Sane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to let folks know that if for any reason we are refused from reading an amendment in a committee report, especially because this one replaces the bill, we'll read it ourselves. It's that important. Some of these bills are moving so fast through this legislature, it's hard for people to keep up. And when you replace an entire bill in a committee, like this one, the public deserves to know about it. This is not a frivolous request, members. It is not a frivolous request, especially when we're talking about kids' lives. How many parents have told me, I wish I knew? How many? Many. Thank you.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to note for the record, this committee report was adopted on March 1st. It's been in everybody's desk drawers for almost a month and a half.
Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an important bill. I'm glad we had it read at length. We have about 700 bills in the works. And actually, this bill allows for medication prescriptions to be written to a 12-year-old without their parents being notified. So I'd like to move Amendment L017 and ask that it be displayed.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's interesting that we have all of these bills that really do impact parental rights and allow state-sanctioned deception between families. Sometimes it takes reading the fine print and talking to the bill drafter to understand how broad these bills are. What this amendment does is it not only strikes psychotropic, which are very strong drugs, and I can understand why the sponsors would not want psychotropic drugs because there are huge side effects to them, and often children that are on them end up committing suicide without the appropriate resources and support behind them. But it also allows for any professional person, a physician, or anyone practicing medicine to also see a child without their parental notification. You have to cross-check it with the Colorado Revised Statutes. And so what this would prevent is that your 12-year-old would not have ADHD prescriptions, Ritalin, hormones, RU46 drugs prescribed by a doctor without a parental notification. This is a very serious bill, and it really does violate parental rights. And I can't even in my imagination imagine my 12-year-old getting a prescription from a doctor with some of these very, very serious drugs, impactful drugs, without my knowledge. And so this amendment would strike the ability for doctors and others to write prescriptions for very, very young children without their parental rights. Can you even imagine a world where you send your kid off to school and a physician writes prescriptions and somebody gets them a prescription that you have no clue that they're even on? That is such a violation of the core of parental rights. And I hope that we could all understand that this was probably a glitch in the way the bill was written, and that we could support this amendment regardless of where you stand on the bill.
Representative Malika.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, this is a mental health bill. This is a mental health bill, and we're talking about psychotropic drugs. And so I think that we need to stay there, and we need to stick to the topic and make sure that we're really understanding that this only involves mental health and only involves psychotropic drugs, and I ask for a no on this amendment.
Representative Landgraf.
All you tall people. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for bringing this amendment, Representative Beckman. I have a big concern that I hadn't thought of until you brought this up. What if a child is on meds This psychotherapist wouldn't know that because there's been no conversation with parents. They could be on heart medicine, seizure medicine, whatever kind of medicine, and they would then go to see this psychotherapist who would prescribe something that they thought was appropriate, and it might be appropriate for that particular situation, but it could certainly be contraindicated by the other meds they were taking. That could be life-threatening. So that is just another reason to at least ban medications if you aren't going to ban the entire bill.
Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regardless of the intent of the bill, the words on the paper matter. And so if it cross-references 2765-102, behavioral health, a professional person means a person licensed to practice medicine in this state. That's a pretty broad umbrella of what this could be interpreted to mean. Providing medical or clinical services, and it goes on and on. So I had a discussion with the bill drafter, and the bill drafter says, absolutely, this is a doctor. So what I'm asking is, unless you really do want a physician writing a 12-year-old a prescription of any type of drug without your knowledge, and if that's the intent of this bill, because that's how it will be interpreted, anywhere from hormones, birth control, abortion drugs, other drugs that might have interactions. If that is not the intent of the bill, I would think the sponsors and everyone in this chamber would approve this amendment. If it is the intent of it, totally take away parental rights for any health care of a 12-year-old, then don't vote for this amendment, because that's what this bill would do. I believe that it was probably a drafting error, and it can be fixed today, unless it is really unveiling what the true intent of this bill, absolute taking away of health care rights of a parent with their 12-year-old child, going to a public school, going to a private school, all children in the state of Colorado. I would ask for an aye vote on this amendment.
Representative Gonzalez-Gutierrez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
And with you.
So members, I just want to reiterate the point that this bill is about mental health treatment. Psychotropic medications can only be prescribed by a physician or a psychiatrist. And what we are talking about here are mental health professionals, whether it's a licensed clinical social worker or, as people keep referencing, a psychotherapist. Those individuals cannot prescribe psychotropic medications or medications at all. I ask for a no vote.
Representative Sandridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to clarify on that, if the child, 12-year-old, goes and sees a clinical psychotherapist or a PsyD, the PsyD recommends med management to a psychiatrist, what happens at that time? Thank you.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. They would have to notify the parents.
Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One more check with the bill drafter to make sure I'm correct. So the bill does say psychotropic drugs, and that's a good thing. But there are a lot of other drugs that are not in that arena. This, when you cross-reference the bill, it says physician means a person's licensed to practice medicine in the state. So what is that? That's not just a psychotherapist or a mental health doctor. That's a physician, a doctor. It's all doctors. It's all doctors. So what this does is to say the doctors can't write prescriptions to children that are 12 without the parental notification. So I think that we all should vote for this amendment, because that's what it says, a person licensed to practice medicine in this state. So except for psychotropic drugs, which this takes out, all other drugs can be prescribed. because that's what the words on the page say. And I think it's really concerning that we would take away all parental rights in this bill for people in Colorado, anyone that's 12 years old or above, because we're not going to vote for this amendment. I would ask that we vote for this amendment.
Is there any further discussion on L017? Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, we have another bill coming through the House on vaccines, and one of the issues that we keep hearing is how somebody can be damaged by a vaccination.
To the amendment, Representative Landgraf.
I am getting to the amendment. The same thing applies here with medication. I have a granddaughter who was on meds for absence seizures and long QT, 2 different meds. To give her something else without knowledge of those could have seriously damaged her. Now, we have some medical professionals in here. I think they realize that that's a possibility. And it's certainly not something we would want ever to have a medicine prescribed for a child who wouldn't know what they're taking. They may know that they're taking meds, sure. I take 2 pills in the morning. They wouldn't know what they were or what they did or why they're taking them necessarily. This is a very good amendment. It doesn't stop the bill. It doesn't hurt the bill, but it does protect a child from getting a medicine that could be very damaging to them.
Any further discussion on L017? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L017. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The amendment is lost. To the committee report, Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L011 and ask that it be displayed. Yeah, L011.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since this bill is in many ways allowing for state-sanctioned deception amongst families, the accountability taken from the family, the parental right taken from the family, I thought it would be important to add some accountability somewhere for the child. So what this bill would do is that if a mental health professional or doctor treats a minor without consent of a minor's parents or legal guardian, and the minor commits an act of self-harm that results in his or her death, the mental health professional is liable for damages and shall surrender his or her license. This is a way to put some accountability on a professional who is actually taking away the parental rights and being responsible for a child. Often in therapy, during the first couple of visits for children that are depressed and having problems, it's a very, very volatile time. And if the family doesn't know about it and the parents don't know about it, it's very concerning. So this would put some parameters around the liability of the therapist and add the accountability, because actually the parents are taken out of the picture of the 12-year-old's life, and the school or the psychologist or whoever is in that organization taking responsibility for the child should also be liable for, if anything, it hurts them or is harmful toward them. I would ask for an aye vote.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd ask for a no vote. This amendment would have an incredible chilling effect on our medical professionals giving youth the services that they need, which is the exact opposite of the point of this bill. I ask for a no vote.
Any further discussion on L011? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L011. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The amendment is lost. To the committee report, Representative Titone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, I just want to talk to you a little bit about this bill and what it really does and why we need kids to be able to see someone without their parents' consent. Sometimes it's really necessary. And I don't like talking about my past very much, but this is a story from my past when I was in high school. There was a rumor that went around, and a kid picked a fight with me. And when the kid attacked me from behind, I didn't fight back. I went down to the principal's office. And this kid was sent home, and he was suspended. I went on with my day. And later, his older brother came into the lunchroom when I was having lunch, and he kicked the chair out from underneath me. And I wanted to press charges. There was no reason for me to be assaulted for doing nothing, for having a rumor told about me that I didn't even say. And I said, I want to press charges on these kids. And the principal said, you don't want to do that. And I'm like, yes, I really do. Do you have a good reason for me not to? And he said, well, you're going to find out sooner or later. But the kid who got suspended went home and he shot himself with his father's gun. And that was a reason not to press charges on the older brother, too. But it was told to me that that kid had problems at home with his father. And the consequences of not beating me up more and getting suspended was going to get him beat up. And he was going to have to sustain more pain. And he shot himself. This is why kids need to see people. Because the abuse that happens at home that's not apparent, it may not be visible, this kind of abuse happens to kids. And if they don't have an outlet to talk to somebody about that, there's more kids that are going to kill themselves. So I want you to think about that. And think about those kids that don't have any choice. And they suffer the consequences at home every day because they're too afraid about the consequences that if they speak up and their parents find out. So I urge a yes vote on this bill.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Singh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Representative Titone, you're right. This bill is all about consequences. I'm going to move L020 and ask it to be properly displayed.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what this amendment does is it makes sure the parents are notified in any situation unless a minor is informed of a mental health professional of abuse or neglect by his parent or legal guardian. Not all parents are great parents. But if a kid is put in a crisis situation because of abuse or neglect by a parent, then at that point, going to a mental health professional without consent or without the parent's knowledge is the right thing to do. Because unfortunately what this bill does is such a broad brush, it paints all parents as bad parents. They shall not be notified. And let me tell you again of how many parents in this state have said, I wish I'd known. About kids being bullied at school. One of my daughter's friends, she was so bullied she went home and overdosed on her inhaler. Parents said, I wish we knew. Spate of suicides in my district. All the kids were using marijuana, which, by the way, does change brain chemistry. Kids' brains aren't developed to the age of 25. I think we mentioned that a couple times down here. Committed suicide. Parents wish they'd known. Parents are parents. They care about their children. They deserve and need to know what's going on. And this bill would remove them from that process that would remove them, the first line of a child's care and defense, from this equation. As well-meaning as this bill is, it will increase suicides, and I just cannot abide it. I cannot abide it. But there are certain situations, like Representative Tone just told us about. There are some bad parents out there. There's no doubt. And in that case, I think this amendment addresses the situation. But in every instance, a parent should be notified if there is a crisis. Let me go back to another conversation we just had. And I just want to make sure that the bill sponsors know this, but if you look on the website at 1120, on the Colorado General Assembly website, do you know what it says? And you click on the most recent text, it shows the introduced version. And I just want to make sure, when we're talking about consequences here, I just want to make sure you all know. I've seen a little too much of this lately, where there's an entire strike below the bill in committee, and the public, it's hard to access this. And I will guarantee you, Representative Roberts and anybody in this chamber, I read slower than the computer does. And I will read it out loud and at length, especially on bills that are this important, where kids' lives are at stake. It's that important. Let me read you something actually from this committee report that greatly disturbs me. It says on line 18, youth who are 10 to 14 years of age often avoid obtaining or legally unable to obtain without parental consent outpatient psychotherapy services that would help them prior to reaching crisis levels because they are embarrassed or concerned about speaking with their parent or legal guardian about their mental health concerns or situations. Let me ask you something, folks. Were you a teenager once? I'm pretty sure you were. Were you ever embarrassed to talk about something to your parents? Did that ever occur? Because it occurred with me. And for some reason, teenagers tend to be a little highly secretive. I don't know if you've noticed that. I've got a teenager right now. Certain things are becoming a little bit more secretive. She's got a private world. But at the same time, when bullying has occurred in her school, I was the last to know about it because she was embarrassed. I need to be the first to know about it, especially considering what happened. And when we're talking about medications, I'm going to go off topic for just a second, Madam Chair. But if we're talking about medications...
Please stay to the amendment.
Actually, it is to the amendment because medications are in here.
Your amendment.
Oh, sorry. You're right. I'll discuss that in just a moment. But anything that happens to the child, the parent needs to be notified, especially if there's a possibility of medication. Because there are certain things at home that can counteract some of these medications and make them less effective. The parent has a right to know. This is about parental rights, but this is also about kids' lives. So I'd urge a yes vote on this amendment. Thank you very much, members, for listening.
Representative Eskar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The problem with this amendment is you are assuming that the minor has the strength, has the courage, has the self-esteem to be able to tell someone about the abuse or neglect they are facing at home. That's the heart of this issue. Kids that are suffering emotionally, mentally, and sometimes the perpetrators that are causing that stress and that abuse are their parents. Some kids, I wish all kids could, some kids don't have the ability to share that with other people. So to say that it's given or needed unless the minor has informed the mental health professional of abuse or neglect, that's putting it on the child who's seeking help as it is to throw their parents out there. That's not an easy thing to do. So should we not give them treatment because they don't have the ability to throw their parents out in front? That's the heart of this bill. I urge a no vote on this amendment.
Assistant Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
The real problem with this bill is, absent this amendment, you aren't giving the parents the ability to do the most effective thing that you can possibly do to prevent a suicide. Anyone who's gone through suicidal awareness training knows that the most important thing that you can do is ask that individual, are you thinking of hurting yourself or others? That simple question can save lives. But if the parents aren't even aware, the people who are most close to that child aren't even aware, you are not letting them have the opportunity to ask that question that could save their child's life. I urge a yes vote on this amendment.
Representative Michaelson-Janae.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If a child presents with suicidal ideation or self-harm proclivities, the parents must be notified immediately and the child transported to the hospital. Please vote no on this amendment.
Representative Sane.
Thank you, Madam Chair, but the issue still is you're going to cut out 99% of the good parents for some of the bad parents. And most psychotherapists and most mental health professionals are very good at their job. They're good at drawing out those questions. Is there something going on at home? Are you okay? So that's not an excuse to cut out parents, folks. Parents need to be notified of this. Again, they are their child's first line of defense. This amendment will save lives. Ask for a yes vote.
Any further discussion on Minority Leader Neville?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, a child could be transported, but again, if a child is having just overall issues and the parent doesn't even know about that, they don't know to look for those signs. They don't even know to ask the question. Because absent this amendment, you're not even giving them the opportunity to know that their child might actually be going through a crisis. I urge a yes vote on this amendment.
Representative Williams.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I honestly don't see what the issue is with this amendment. I think it's actually a good way to sort of thread the needle, specifically with respect to parental consent. I mean, we have on one side this issue, and I think it's very valid because I support it, is that we're going to be cutting off a large portion of parents from this issue, right? Because we're lowering that age of consent to 12. And on this side, we have an issue of, well, what if that child is being abused? What if, they can harm themselves by having a parental consent clause in this bill? What this tries to strike a balance, right? It tries to say, okay, if parents are being abusive, then that child can still go to a psychotherapist, seek those services and treatment, and not have to notify those parents in so doing. I don't see what the problem is with that. It was talked about how some children who are in a bad spot may not have the strength to actually tell someone that they're being abused, but they have the strength to go sneak around to a psychotherapist and talk about their issues. I mean, this is the problem here, members, is that we're taking away parental consent. And as a parent myself, I just don't understand why we're trying to undermine that. This should not be the policy of this body to undermine parental rights. And this is what this bill does. I mean, we are allowing children to go ahead and seek services without talking with the people that care about them the most, their parents. And yeah, there are bad actors. There are bad parents out there that do things that they shouldn't be doing. Totally grant you that. And I think what this amendment does is it addresses it. And if this place is so partisan that we can't even try and find a balance, then I don't know what we're actually going to be able to agree on. This is a measured amendment. I think what you'll find is greater support for this bill if it's passed. But absent that, I mean, this is an egregious attack. Without this amendment, this is an egregious attack on parents and the family unit. And I think overall, that's the problem with the bill. So I would encourage everyone to vote yes on this.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to comment because I feel like we're setting up an argument now that the only children under the age of 15 who commit suicide are the ones who are the children of abusive parents. That is not true. The unintended consequence of an amendment like this is that you're going to have children who are so desperate to get private help from a professional that they lie about their parents so they can get in the door. Why would we want that to happen as well? This is about letting kids who love their parents. We heard from many kids during the committee hearing who love their parents, but they don't want to have that conversation with their parents. They're worried about the stigma. They're worried about the consequences at home. They want to talk to a professional, and they want to do it in private. This amendment has terrible unintended consequences. I ask for a no vote.
Any further discussion? Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move L022 as a substitute. Ask that it be displayed. So Representative Tatone, what you went through is heartbreaking, and nobody should ever go through that. My daughter had sort
The
of
amendment is now properly before us.
Thank you.
Please
My daughter
proceed.
had somewhat of a situation similar she was teaching in Hawaii, and she was teaching high school kids, and they were very unruly. I won't go into all the details, but there was one kid who almost hit her and was reported to the principal. The next day he wasn't in school because his father beat him, which was obviously never her intention. She decided on the spot that she would not be teaching in Hawaii ever again because something like that is just not acceptable. So I understand that situation. I certainly understand and have heard from parents whose kids did kill themselves, and I believe that they would give anything they owned if their kid had seen a psychotherapist and not killed themselves. So the dilemma is, how do we solve the parental rights and the other issues? And I think this gets to it. And it basically says the child can see a psychotherapist twice before the parent is notified unless there is a suspicion of abuse or neglect, in which case, in my opinion, the psychotherapist and the police should show up at the door and arrest those parents. But that's, an issue to be decided elsewhere. So I ask for a yes vote on this substitute amendment. I believe it gets to all the issues we've been talking about. It certainly does not say that all parents are abusive, but it does allow for the child who is being abused to continue seeing the psychotherapist. And on the flip side, it requires notification after 2 visits if there is no, if it's my boyfriend dumped me or some of the other real and, traumatic things that kids go through at that age. I ask for a yes vote on L022.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, we already have mandatory reporting laws in our statutes. I ask for a no vote.
Any further discussion on L022? Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Roberts. This has nothing to do with mandatory reporting. This has to do with allowing a child to continue to see a professional more than 2 times if the professional believes or suspects that that child is being a victim of abuse or neglect. It doesn't have anything to do with mandatory reporting. It does require that the child that has no suspicion of neglect or abuse, parents be told after 2 visits.
Representative Liston.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members, I rise in support of this amendment, L022. This is a very, very fair and measured amendment. They're only trying to have the parents as part of the equation of this, and to take the parents out of this, of a life-defining situation is sheer fallacy. Here we have a bill that was a major strike below, L008, And you're telling us that your bill is absolutely perfect with no amendments, and yet you brought in L008, which is the bill, and you're saying that this is absolutely perfect, that there can be no variations whatsoever
Representative
forever.
Liston, to the
I am
amendment, please.
speaking to the amendment, Madam Chair. So here we offer a very fair, reasoned amendment in the form of L022, and perfection, absolute perfection, no changes whatsoever. Members, this is not perfect. We're being fair, we're being reasonable. With L022, I urge an aye vote. Thank you.
Any further discussion on L022? Seeing none, the question before us is the substitution of L022 to L020. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The substitute amendment is lost. To L020. Representative Singh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, we can do all the what-ifs we want to, but this is basically taking away the right of parents to parent. I ask for a yes vote.
Any further discussion on L020? A division has been called. The question is the adoption of L020. A division has been requested. All those in the chamber not entitled to vote, please be seated. All those in favor of L020, please stand and remain standing in one place until the count is taken. You may be seated. All those opposed, please stand and remain standing in one place until the count is taken.
I put it all on my desk and then I never look at it again. Okay.
You may be seated. L020 is lost. To the committee report. Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, members, the more and more I think about it, the more and more this bill, kind of just rubs me the wrong way as a parent. I didn't necessarily want to run this amendment, but I think I have to just to make the point. So, members, I move L019 and ask to be displayed.
Representative Williams.
Members, the reason I'm running this is because I think it gets to the heart of the debate here. We're talking about parental consent. We're talking about what's appropriate with respect to preventing youth suicide, and there's one side, and I think it's in the minority primarily, if not all, that believes that in order to prevent youth suicide, we need to involve parents. And then you have the other side saying not so much. That's a problem. If we really want to tackle this issue, then we need more involvement with parents and with the family. What this bill aims to do, as defined in this committee report, is it takes away parental consent. And that's a problem. And it tries to replace it with something that is not really going to work. The foundation of our society is the family. And having healthy families is a great way to ensure that we keep our society going in the right direction. It's a great way to ensure that youth suicides are prevented. But with this bill, it doesn't aim to do that. Instead, it truly tries to replace parents with something different and something that's not going to work. So with that, members, I certainly ask for a yes vote on this.
Any further discussion on L019? Representative Humphrey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I rise in support of the amendment, changing the short title to Replacing Parents with Psychotherapists Act of 2019, because that certainly is what the bill does in a specific sense and in a very broad way, and is a really, really serious problem in terms of parental rights, the way that the bill is written. So I encourage an aye vote because we should not, in Colorado, treat children like they are de facto wards of the state. So I urge an aye vote.
Any further discussion on L0? Representative Sane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Representative Williams had a great point. The basis of our society is a nuclear family. Nuclear family does not include mom, dad, and mental health professional, and principal, and. What does the PTA stand for? Parent-Teacher Association. We invite parents in every other aspect of our kids' lives except for this. I know a lot of this is going to happen at schools. So I urge a yes vote on the amendment, no on the bill.
Any further discussion on L019? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L019 to the committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The amendment is lost. To the committee report. Any further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Public Health, Care, and Human Services Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The committee report is adopted. To the bill. Representative Michelson-Janae.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Chair. This is the third year that I've run the bill, and I think it is the best iteration of the bill ever. I worked very closely with psychotherapists from Colorado Christian University, amongst the other therapists in our community, to make sure that we had a balanced measure before us. And that's what I believe that we are putting before you. We have thought about the protections and the care of our children. We have thought about the protections and the care of our parents. And I believe we have an excellent bill before you. For those members of the committee, of the caucus, of the chamber, I'm sorry, this is a hard bill for me. For those members of the body who have not heard my story before, this bill is for my son. It's not only for my son, it's for your sons and for your daughters. My son was 9 years old when he decided he wanted to end his life. And I don't know about you, but I would give my child access to anything in the world that would prevent his death, whether I knew about it or not. And yes, my child had access to therapy, but do you know what? He didn't trust his therapist. Because what happened the second we left the room? The doctor said, "Hey, Mom and Dad, here's what's going on with your kid." So my son had zero trust of the therapy community. if we put our children in a way where they cannot trust the therapy community, no wonder we have the highest rates of suicide in the country. No wonder. Our children deserve respect. Our children deserve to be believed. Our children deserve confidentiality that may lead to saving their lives. Their lives. This is not just a piece of legislation. This is not rhetoric. This is not one side or the other. This is our children who we are saying that we don't trust, we don't believe, we don't want to give access to care. To care. My son is 16 years old and finally believes that the therapist isn't going to tell us everything he says. But we had to go through hospitalization after hospitalization after hospitalization. We had to go through provider and provider and provider because he didn't feel that his word was secure. There is nothing in the world that I want more than my son to be happy. I don't know if he's going to ever feel happy. He's in pain every day. And he fights through it like a champion. And all I care about is that he has access to care, and so do your children. This bill does that. This bill says if you are in school and you are having a problem, you can go talk to the mental health provider in your school and have a confidential conversation. And they can give you guidance. And they can teach you how to talk to your parents. And they can tell you that your parents are your allies. Instead of saying, I'm sorry, we can't talk to you until we call your parent, and then the kid says, never mind, and they go to their friends. And what do their friends say? Well, you don't want to talk to mom and dad. What do we prefer? Members, this is a matter of life and death, and I beg you to consider our children, and please vote yes on this bill.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Michelson-Janae. It is an honor to serve with you and to join you on this bill. I know this has been a lifetime of work for you, and I'm proud to be on this bill. I wish I didn't have to be on this bill, but representing rural Colorado, where the suicide rate is twice the statewide average, and we already know that Colorado is at the top of the list in the country for suicide. Doing nothing is not acceptable anymore. And we heard from countless people in the committee hearing who said we need more resources, we need more access to resources, and we need something to change. And people are taking it on amongst themselves. There's a group of teenagers at home in Eagle County watching this right now who went out and formed a group themselves because they felt they didn't have the resources they need. They wanted peer-to-peer support. They wanted to talk to somebody other than their parents about this. And we also heard from a father whose son had committed suicide less than 3 weeks before he was testifying here at the state capitol, and desperately begged that we have access to care for people like his son. And I just also want to point out, this bill isn't just about changing the age for therapy services. This bill also will put resources in our schools so that our educators have access to peer-reviewed mental health resources that they can incorporate into their curriculum. We have to start talking about this from a very young age. We need to incorporate it into education. We need to make sure that we are breaking the stigma as much as possible. And if we talk about this just as much as we talk about physical health in school, we can start making a change. This bill is one way to stop the suicide epidemic in our state. And I would ask, I know this debate got contentious today, but if this bill saves at least one life of one of our state's teenagers, isn't it worth it? I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Stain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I feel terrible. My heart breaks for situations when I hear things like that. And sometimes we carry bills that we're very close to, very close. I ran a bill on DUI felony because people in my district were killed, families ripped apart, because we have a very high rate of drivers in rural areas. They can't find an Uber or taxi, borrow a girlfriend's car, kill somebody. It didn't bring my uncle back, but I sure cried when the bill passed. But members, there's no excuse. We've heard a lot of explanations today, but there's no excuse to cut parents out of this equation, period. None. And let me repeat that again, absolutely none. If you want to prevent the death of a child, the number one barrier to that is the parent, almost all the time. How many parents said everybody knew but me, and their child was already dead? It's unacceptable. Again, this bill is well-meaning. It's probably based on a very personal story that you just heard down here. But I gotta stand up for those parents who would want to know, would do anything in their power to make sure that their child can live and thrive if they have to be removed from a situation, bullying from school, whatever it is that's driving it, that they would do it. They would give anything. Go to some of those funerals. Go to some of those memorials and listen to what they have to say. This would be the last thing they want. Vote no.
Representative Hawkes Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I don't come down to the well that often. It's really just to share personal stories. And when I was president of Boulder Pride, which is the LGBTQ community center, within the first 6 months of doing that, we had 2 teenage suicides. What we did was we set up the ability for the police. They wanted to have better access for communication on LGBTQ issues. So I would carry a pager, and I would get the phone call when a teenager would commit suicide. And in both cases, what do you do? What do you do when you get that call? And in both cases, those teenagers had reached out to classmates, but they didn't know who to reach out to as far as getting professional help. They just talked to their students because they were so afraid that their parents would disown them or kick them out because they had fellow friends that were kicked out of the home. So this is the kind of bill that would help LGBTQ students. All the studies show, JAMA Pediatrics just did a compilation study that shows that LGBTQ teenagers are 6 times more likely to commit suicide, and they don't know how to talk to their parents. They need confidential access. 1 in 4 preteens are at higher risk that their suicide is related to the fact that they're LGBTQ and they don't have anyone to talk with. These kids need professional help that can be confidential. So I know probably everyone in this chamber has a story about either a friend of the family or someone that is at risk for suicide, but having confidential help is so important. So please, let's pass this bill. Thank you.
Any further discussion on House Representative Geithner?
Members, I'd like to read something as I feel it definitely pertains to this bill. Parents have a fundamental right and responsibility to make decisions concerning the care, custody, and control of their children. The law has long presumed that parents act in the best interest of their children. Parents make conscious choices every day on behalf of their children concerning the risks and benefits of participation in activities that may involve risk. These are proper parental choices on behalf of their children that should not be ignored. So long as the decision is voluntary and informed, the decision should be given the same dignity as decisions regarding schooling, medical treatment, and religious education. This comes from our very own statute. I guess we choose to abide by it when it's convenient and ignore it when it isn't. I urge a no vote on this bill.
Representative Baisley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Geithner. You know, a parent's greatest fear is the loss of their child, of course. And with very, very few exceptions, parents achieve that through their love, through their wisdom, through their guidance, to the care that they give that child from the moment they realize that that child exists inside. And typically, a parent's second greatest fear is the loss of their role as parent to an authoritarian government. This bill seizes the opportunity of public education when the children are away from their parents to assert the state's superior position in the lives of Colorado's children. It does not say we will replace that parent with something superior, such as a spiritual life that helps them heal a wound that they are dealing with. It asserts arrogantly that they will replace the human who was a parent with another human who is a state employee or a state engaged employee. Parents, I urge you to remember that number 1120, House Bill 19-1120. If this passes, I urge parents in Colorado, get your kids out of public schools, because you just lost your position as parental authority in your children's lives. House Bill 1120. I urge a strong no vote.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I too rise in opposition to this bill and urge a no vote. As a parent, this bill deeply concerns me. I love my child. Every night when I rock him and I put him down, I tell him I love him. I tell him that he's the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life, and that I'm proud of him and I'm grateful that the Lord gave him to me. And I tell him also that I want to share in his successes and his failures. I want to be involved. Me and his mom want to be involved. And I know he's only 2, so I don't know if he's really getting any of it, but I want to be able to foster that kind of relationship with him. Because generally speaking, there are no other individuals out there that care about their children or care about children more than their parents. I'm sorry, that's just the truth. Parents care more about their kids than some, psychotherapist or other individual that wants to help them out. That's just a fact. And I want to be involved in my child's upbringing. I want to be involved in my child's successes and failures, their crises, because that's what a good parent does. And if my child is allowed to go seek help because this bill would allow it, I don't know what kind of help my child is going to be seeking potentially. I want to be involved in that decision so that I can help find the appropriate therapy for my child that's consistent with my beliefs, that's consistent with what I think is appropriate to ensure that whatever mental health crises are going on are actually going to be taken care of. I don't want some unknown individual trying to pour their beliefs, their ideas into my child's life. And I think you'll find that that's most parents, because that's appropriate. That's how we were built. We should be very guarded about our children and their upbringing. We should be very guarded about our children and the crises that they may be going through. And if we don't know about it, there's not going to be anything that we can do about it. And I guarantee you that most parents want to be able to help their children. I certainly don't want my child going to seek treatment from an unknown person because I don't know, again, that person's beliefs. I don't know their ideas. I don't know what they're going to do. And further, you better believe I'm going to do whatever I can to get them the best treatment possible. To get my child the best treatment, I'm going to spend lots of money. I'm going to spend resources to make sure that they get the best treatment. I don't even know what kind of treatment the state would provide that would actually help. So that's another problem with this. Members, this takes away consent. This takes away parental rights. And that's something that we should all be very concerned about. And I think this is the debate. This is at the heart of the issue here. And I know the bill seeks to try and prevent suicide, which is a noble cause. But the best way that we can do that, generally speaking, is by bringing in more parental involvement, not taking that away, not getting rid of that. If my child sought treatment and I didn't even know about it, and then my child commits suicide, I'd be devastated. And I'd be angry. Because that you've taken away my opportunity to do whatever I can to help make sure that my child not only continues to live, but lives a healthy life consistent with all the hopes and dreams that I think any of us would have for our child. That is my main point here, is that as a parent, this really interferes with the relationship that I have with my child, or potentially does. And that should frighten all of us. It really should. And I think we shouldn't do away with that consent, with those rights of most parents, because there are a few bad actors out there. I think we should narrowly figure out this issue, see if we can thread the needle, and allow for parental consent while being able to address this issue of abusive parents or children that are afraid to talk to their parents. There's a lot of evil in this world that exists, and we're not going to be able to do away with that through legislation. It's a hard issue. And these hard issues are only going to be solved with friends, family, not through some government legislation that makes us feel better. I know if this bill passes, we're all going to pat ourselves on the back and we're going to say we did something. But the only thing we really did in reality was make it harder for the family to come together and struggle through these problems together. Because that's the only way that we're ever going to be able to solve any problems, is we'll work together without some very cold, benevolent, so to speak, government coming in and telling us how to do it. No, the only way to do it is through working together with your friends, with your family, not with some government mandate. So, members, I urge a strong no vote on this, not only as a legislator, but as a parent. And I would agree with Representative Mark Baisley. If this bill passes, along with some others, there's no way I'm letting my child go into public school. And I would urge the same for all of you.
Is there any further discussion on HB 1120? Seeing none, the question before us. Representative Humphrey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to rise in opposition and urge a no vote. Having a degree in clinical psych with an emphasis in marriage and family therapy, I've studied many of the theories and perspectives in psychology and psychotherapy. And I can tell you one thing for sure, it is a very, very heavily value-laden business. Who you select as a counselor, as a therapist, is a very, very personal decision. And so it becomes a very big concern for families who their child is seeing, and what is the what kind of informed consent does a 12-year-old make in choosing that relationship? That's a big problem, and it's disturbing. And this bill puts itself forward as a one-size-fits-all answer, and I realize that resonates strongly with my colleagues on the left side of the aisle. Not so much on the right side of the aisle with this bill, particularly with the issues with Parental consent is a huge problem. The closer that we get to issues that deal with who we are essentially as persons, how we live, who we are, and our basic being, how we worship, these are profound questions. And as hard as we try in this body, there is no one-size-fit-all answer. And I urge a no vote, respectfully. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on HB 1120? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1120. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The bill passes. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise, report, and beg leave to sit again.
Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report and beg leave to sit again later in the day.
The House will come back to order. Mr. Randall, please read the report.
Madam Speaker, your pro tem, your committee of the whole reports as follows. It is risen reports progress and begs leave to sit again later today.
Mr. Assistant Majority Leader. Okay, announcements and introductions. Representative Singer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Here's my moment to shine. Public Health Care and Human Services Committee, we will see you down in House Committee Room 107 to hear a total of 3 bills. House Bills 1288, House Bill 1308, and Senate Bill 164. We will be in committee 5 minutes post gavel coming down, and then we have 90 minutes to get through these bills, folks. And so we will do our best. Process-wise, we may just do testimony only, and then if we need to do action, we'll come back after we've concluded our floor work today and make sure that those bills get everything they need. With that, I look forward to seeing you 5 minutes post gavel drop.
Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. And I know I alluded to this earlier, but I've got a wonderful school group here today, Eagle Ridge Elementary. It's 4 different classrooms full of 4th graders, and they are wearing bright orange shirts. So if you see them out in the hallways, please stop and say hello. They're really excited to see real live legislators, and I know that they would love to have the chance to be able to say hi to you if you can. And just as a matter of record, although the school is located in my district, and although I live in the same neighborhood as a lot of these students, Representative Van Winkle actually graduated from Eagle Ridge Elementary. So we always like to think we kind of co-represent the school. Anyway, I hope that you'll help me welcome the kids. Thank you.
Thank you. We welcome them too, and if we see students in orange shirts, we will talk to them. Representative Bockenfeld.
Madam Chair, it is an honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you.
Members of the Colorado House of Representatives, I stand here as a proud father. My daughter Erica graduated from Seattle University Law School last year, and today she passed the bar exam. That away, pickles! Thank you.
Congratulations, Representative Bockenfeld. Are there any further announcements or introductions? Mr. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Members, we're about to go into recess to allow the Public Health Care and Human Services Committee to meet. We anticipate that their work is going to take likely an hour and a half, maybe not quite that much. Please stick around the chamber starting at 1:30. We will do a call of the House sometime early afternoon when the Public Health Care and Human Services Committee concludes its work. And with that, I move the House stand in recess until later today.
Thank you. There being no objection, the House will stand in recess until later today.